Chapter 337. 3-star ancient clan Longchen had been in seclusion with everyone for 10 days. The old man and the 3 late-stage human king middle-aged men from the God Wolf clan had just arrived. However, this person was completely different from the other 3. He seemed to be full of confidence. The people behind you have the advantage of movement techniques and Dharma artifacts. In addition to your monstrous combat power, you killed nearly 1,000 human kings from the God Wolf clan and about 2,000 from the other clans. You only lost a dozen human kings. I have to say that the 100 or so of you are extremely terrifying. However, if you want to go against the Soul Ivy clan, you will still be annihilated. The old man stared at Longchen and Jianshursan and the others behind him as he spoke faintly. The surrounding clans already had a whole new level of respect for Longchen and the others. Just as the Grand Elder had said. Whether it was Longchen or the 100 or so people with Dharma artifacts behind him, their combat power was truly terrifying. The God Wolf clan had lost at least 70% of their combat power today. From today onward, the God Wolf clan, which had originally been able to contend with the Soul Ivy clan, would fall from a 5-star ancient clan to a 7-star ancient clan. However, everyone was very confused at this moment. Although the Soul Ivy clan was the ruling clan of the North region, its strength was not much different from the God Wolf clan. Now that the God Wolf clan had suffered a crushing defeat at the hands of Longchen, where did the Grand Elder of the Soul Ivy clan's confidence come from? Longchen stared at the white-haired old man and said faintly, "Let me see where your confidence comes from." After Longchen finished speaking, he turned into a stream of light and charged toward the Soul Ivy clan. Behind him, Jianshursan and Yi Hailan followed closely behind the 2 battle formations. When the Soul Ivy clan saw this scene, they could not help but tremble. There was a trace of fear in the eyes of many human kings. The battle between Longchen and the God Wolf clan was still vivid in everyone's mind. Seeing that Longchen was about to charge over, the white-haired old man shook his head and chuckled. He had no intention of releasing his cultivation base. Instead, he slowly raised his right hand, which was as thin as skin and bones. The gold-threaded brocade cloth in his hand was unraveled, revealing a red jade token that was still flickering with blood-red radiance under the dark clouds. Dark clouds covered the sky and thunder rumbled incessantly. This red jade was like a blood-red star, instantly attracting everyone's attention. Longchen's brows suddenly furrowed. His footsteps gradually slowed down, and the people behind him also stopped attacking. Everyone's eyes were filled with doubt. What was this blood jade? What is the Soul Ivy clan trying to do? Seeing everyone's puzzled expression, the white-haired elder's face turned slightly red. He cleared his throat and coughed twice before saying, "This is the blood jade token. It's the token of the ancient 3-star clan, the Xia clan. 5 days ago, 3 Taoists from the Xia clan arrived at our clan." Hiss. The voice of the Soul Ivy clan's supreme elder was filled with arrogance, as if this was a great honor. At the same time, everyone gasped when they heard the words 3-star ancient clan and Taoist. 3-star ancient clan of the wasteland. There was only one condition for one to become a 3-star ancient clan in the wasteland. 3 Taoists at the human sovereign realm. No wonder the Soul Ivy clan was so confident. With the 3-star Taoists here, what was there to be afraid of? However, just as everyone was shocked that there were 3 Taoists from the 3-star ancient clan in the Soul Ivy clan, Longchen's voice sounded nonchalantly. "Is this the source of your confidence? It's just 3 Taoists." When Longchen said this, even the human kings behind him could not help but twitch their eyes. The surrounding ancient clans were all dumbfounded at this moment. The Soul Ivy clan's supreme elder was also stunned. He subconsciously said, "Did you hear it clearly? They are Taoists from the 3-star ancient clan, and each of them has the cultivation of a human king." The Grand Supreme Elder emphasized the words Daozi and 3-star ancient race as he spoke. It was a pity that the reply was still a plain voice. "Oh? So what?" Longchen said nonchalantly. The white-haired old man, who had been calm and confident all this time, was finally angered by Longchen's plain tone. The old man snorted coldly and shouted, hand over all your Dharma weapons and the method to enter the 6th level of the sacred mountain. Return to the Soul Ivy clan and plant a slave seal. Otherwise. Before the old man could finish speaking, he was interrupted by loud laughter. Longchen stepped forward and said in a low voice, "I have no enmity with your clan. If the Soul Ivy clan retreats today, we will mind our own business." Longchen paused, and his tone suddenly changed. "However, you insist on treating me as your enemy. It's fine if the 3 Taoists don't attack. Otherwise, I don't mind killing 3 more people." "Don't mind killing 3 more people," Longchen's voice spread like rolling thunder. Countless ancient clans around him had interesting expressions on their faces. It was as if the 3-star Taoists were pigs and dogs that were not worth mentioning. The white-haired old man looked at the blood jade token in his hand and then looked at Longchen. He was so angry that he trembled slightly. Originally, he thought that as long as he took out the token, Longchen would naturally surrender with the deterrence of the 3-star ancient clans. However, now it seemed that Longchen was just an arrogant and ignorant person. "Good, very good. I'd like to see how an ignorant child like you will defeat the 3-star Taoists." The white-haired old man shouted coldly. The blood jade in his right hand was suddenly crushed into powder. Buzz! An invisible force slowly dispersed from the blood jade and escaped into the void. The surroundings were silent for a while. Everyone's gaze fell on the Soul Ivy clan. After a few breaths, a line suddenly appeared in the space above a mountain peak outside the sacred mountain. A human king powerhouse tore through the space and arrived. After this person stepped out of the space, his clothes were in a mess. He was hugging a woman with a revealing veil in his arms. The young man's face was slightly yellow, and his body was thin. He looked like he had indulged in too much debauchery. However, his blood-red hair was extremely dazzling. The man saw the Soul Ivy clan and the others from afar. Then, he hugged the woman in his arms and entered the sacred mountain in just 100 breaths. "Why did you crush the blood jade token?" The man's voice was very impatient. As he spoke, his right hand was still moving around the woman's body. He turned a blind eye to the gazes from all directions. However, many people also noticed that the woman's eyes were full of dullness. She seemed to have lost her mind. The Soul Ivy clan's Grand Elder heard and immediately bowed. He replied respectfully, "Our clan rules the North region. Every year, we hand over countless resources to the Waste region. The 3 Taoists must have come this time to bring the resources back to the Waste region." "That's right. The Blood Jade Ancient Clan has already belonged to the Gong Clan, a 1-star ancient clan. In the future, the North region's resources will be transported through our clan," the man said in a deep voice. The Blood Jade Clan was one of the hubs of the Waste region's 4 strongest 1-star ancient clans that controlled the God-state resources of the 4 major regions. When the elder on the stage heard this, his wrinkled eyes flashed with a sinister cold light. He looked deeply at Longchen. Chapter 338. Chuzhan Daozi, the red-haired Taoist, frowned slightly when he heard the words of the Soul Green Vine's Grand Supreme Elder. Then the man turned to Longchen and said impatiently, "If you want to live, kneel on the ground and hand over everything. My patience is limited." The man didn't seem to put Longchen in his eyes at all. He only cared about the woman in his arms. When Longchen saw this scene, a wisp of a cold smile flashed past the corners of his mouth, and he said in a cold voice, "It's just a beast whose eyes are filled with lust." Longchen's voice resounded in everyone's ears. Everyone's expression changed drastically, and no one dared to make a sound. The man's hands suddenly stopped moving, and then his eyes were filled with killing intent. He stared at Longchen and said, "Do you know who you are talking to?" "I don't need to know who you are. I never like to remember the names of dead people," Longchen replied. The man's face immediately turned gloomy. Streaks of blood-red light shot out from his body. Murderous intent appeared in his eyes as he tore the woman in his arms apart. The members of the Greenvine clan couldn't help but frown deeply when they saw this scene, and their faces were slightly livid. This was because this woman also had an azure vine mark between her brows. She was a member of the Soul Azure Vine clan. Yi Hailan, who was standing behind Long Chen, had a frosty look on his face when he saw this scene. He said coldly, "This person treats women like dirt. He really deserves to die. Oh, I didn't think that there would be such a beauty in the northern region. Looks like I didn't come here in vain." After saying that, the man waved his hand and a spear appeared. As the long spear was waved, a series of power of the rules instantly covered it. Then, a spear shadow suddenly scattered countless blood-red thunderbolts in all directions. It tore through the space and attacked Long Chen. The man acted casually, but the expressions of the people from the various ancient clans changed drastically. As expected of a 3-star ancient clan from the Waste region. This spear contains 3 types of lightning laws, and all of them have reached perfection. Within the wasteland, which of the Taoists of the various ancient clans aren't geniuses among geniuses? They also have countless resources at their disposal. Although this man is only an early-stage sovereign personage, I'm afraid no one in the northern region is a match for him. Although Long Chen's aptitude is also heaven-defying, he is still only a Dao integration stage cultivator. This person is going against the 3-star ancient clan. Only death awaits him. This attack crossed a distance of several thousand meters. Just as the crowd finished speaking, the spear had already arrived in front of Long Chen. Yi Hailan and Jian Shan both took a few steps back, their expressions grave. In comparison, the 100 or so human kings behind them were even more unbearable. They retreated 100 steps, feeling as if their bodies had been struck by lightning. Lightning-type precepts? However, as he watched the spear shadow descend, Long Chen remained motionless like a mountain. Instead, he muttered to himself playfully. Rumble! The spear shadows instantly covered Long Chen's entire body, and countless blood-red thunderbolts wreaked havoc. With Long Chen as the center, the ground cracked like a spider web for 1,000 meters. Waves of air spread out like a tsunami. The Taoist from the Shui clan laughed. His figure instantly turned into a shadow and swept toward Yi Hailan. His eyes were filled with the desire to wreak havoc. Bang! However, just as he swept out 1,000 meters, a humanoid demonic beast covered in silver-white scales charged out from the area where the blood-red thunderbolts were wreaking havoc. Heavenly Dragon Vein, Second Dharma Body, Three-Eyed Thunder Dragon. The Taoist from the Shui clan flew out like a cannonball. A huge bloody hole appeared on his chest and back. Silver-white thunderbolts rolled and jumped on it, charring it black. Bang! 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 The Taoist flew for 10,000 meters before coming to a stop. The mountain behind him was smashed into pieces. How is this possible? He actually blocked it and is unscathed. What kind of bloodline does this person have? How did he change so much? Moreover, the power of thunderbolts around him seems to have reached its peak. A 3-star ancient clan Taoist was sent flying by his thunderbolt rule power. The various ancient clans were shocked when they saw this scene from 10,000 meters away. Long Chen was unscathed under the attack of 3 types of thunderbolts. Moreover, he had severely injured the Taoist with one blow. It was terrifying. The elder from the Green Vine clan and many human kings on the platform could not help but gasp. They retreated one after another. They were inexplicably fearful of Long Chen's combat power. Thunderbolt rule power. A mere path 3rd-level cultivator actually possesses such pure thunderbolt rule power. At the same time, the Taoist from the Shui clan slowly stood up from the rubble of the mountain. The huge hole in his chest was recovering at a speed visible to the naked eye. The Taoist looked at Long Chen with murderous eyes. There was no longer a trace of contempt in his eyes. However, just as he stood up, the wings behind Long Chen's back flashed. His figure seemed to have teleported. In the blink of an eye, he had traveled 1,000 meters. He rushed to the Taoist in a few breaths' time. You're just a 3-star ancient clan Taoist. How dare you be so presumptuous? Long Chen's face was also filled with murderous intent. The Taoist was about to attack Yi Hailan, which had completely infuriated him. Boom! 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 Bolts of thunderbolts accompanied the sword technique and fell like raindrops. The Taoist from the Shui clan was instantly engulfed by the waves of thunderbolts. Crackle! Boom! The mountain that was originally 100 meters tall was now like a gas, thunderbolts, and flames. It was forcefully blasted into a depression. Where the sword mark landed, bolts of thunderbolts tore a 10,000 feet long ravine. All the ancient clan kings present were aghast. Even the Green Vine clan's members were terrified. A few of the higher-ups even hurriedly walked to the elder on the platform. This. Should we take action? If we join forces, we might be able to take down Long Chen. The white-haired great elder's face was ghastly pale. When he saw the scene, he snorted and said, "We can't take action. I didn't expect this person's combat power to have reached such a level. However, this scene is more to my liking. All clansmen, step back. We mustn't take part in the battle." The few higher-ups from the Green Vine clan were about to ask questions when they suddenly understood. There were 3 Taoists who came to the North region this time. If the Taoist couldn't defeat the other 2, they naturally wouldn't stand by and watch. Instead of sacrificing their clansmen to fight against Long Chen, it was better to hand Long Chen over to the 3-star ancient clan, Shui clan. Bang! 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 A bolt of crimson thunderbolt soared into the sky and burst out from the ground. The Taoist from the Shui clan was covered in blood. There were sword wounds that were so deep that his bones could be seen. He no longer looked superior. The Taoist stared at Long Chen and panted heavily. He said, "Your bloodline has the power of Thunderbolt origin. If I devour your power of Thunderbolt today, it will be complete." The Taoist's eyes were red. He didn't care about the wounds on his body. He stared at Long Chen and the crimson glow on his body became unprecedentedly strong. Bloodline superpower, sky-swallowing crimson python. As the Taoist spoke, he instantly transformed into his bloodline original form. A huge crimson python that was hundreds of thousands of feet long suddenly appeared. Chapter 339. Soul Green Vine clan. The Shui clan had the blood python bloodline. This bloodline could devour other people's bodies and souls, robbing them of the power of rules they had comprehended. This ability was similar to Long Chen's cultivation. However, there was a huge flaw in it. The Shui clan members could only use this ability 3 times in their lives. Moreover, they needed an endless supply of women to share the colding energy. Otherwise, their blood would turn cold and they would die. Even so, this clan had become a 3-star ancient clan and had a place in the Waste region. After the bloodline ability appeared, the bloody mouth fell toward Long Chen like a crack in space. The strong tearing force caused countless rocks to fly into it uncontrollably. A few human kings from the Soul Green Vine clan who were close to it did not have time to run away. They fell into the mouth and turned into powder. Jianshi San, Yi Hailan, and the rest were also shocked. They retreated a few thousand meters. Although this person was only a human king, his combat power was not something the people of the North region could compare to. "In the name of the heavens, I command the power of thunder punishment." Seeing the bloody mouth coming toward him, the thunder symbol between Long Chen's eyebrows shone brightly. His third eye opened instantly. It was filled with thunder symbols like a sea of thunder. Boom! Boom! It was daytime between heaven and earth. A thunderbolt as big as a mountain tore through space. It landed on the huge body of the giant python in front of Long Chen. A pungent burnt smell spread in all directions. Long Chen stood where he was without moving. Meanwhile, the giant python in front of him had been forcefully split into 2 from 7 inches away from its body. "How dare you be so arrogant with such a bloodline?" As soon as Long Chen finished speaking, he disappeared from where he was. Streaks of sword light shot out and instantly fell towards the giant python from all directions. Boom! 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 Blood splattered everywhere. The Taoist of the Shui clan had already transformed into his human form. However, his body was full of holes. Countless sword scars had already pierced through his body. Bloody foam flowed out of the Taoist's mouth as he cried out, "How can you have such a powerful bloodline ability? Void Sword, Soul Sword Body Slash. Unfortunately, Longchen did not give him much time. As soon as his voice fell, an invisible and colorless sword ray suddenly broke through the air. Lesser Saint Technique, Earth-Splitting Spear. The man's expression changed drastically. He instantly unleashed the last of his strength, and the long spear in his hand expanded in the wind. However, the sword light seemed to be unstoppable as it pierced through the spear, passing through thousands of meters of space before landing on his body. No! Bang bang bang, the path chosen of the Shui clan let out an indignant roar, and his body instantly turned into a bloody mist. The moment his soul appeared, it was crushed by Longchen. The physical body and soul of a Taoist from a 3-star ancient clan had been destroyed. The members of the Soul Greenvine clan were filled with terror. Even the Supreme Elder's expression changed. Whether it was bloodline power, rule power, or even martial arts, Longchen had completely crushed the path chosen of the Shui clan. The Soul Greenvine clan retreated rapidly, and the Supreme Elder's face was filled with fear. Although Longchen was only at the Dao integration stage, his application and comprehension of rule power had already surpassed the mid-stage or even late-stage human monarch realm. Did I allow you to leave? However, just as everyone retreated, Longchen's figure was already standing 1,000 meters in front of them. With a loud shout, the Soul Greenvine clan's close to 1,000 human monarchs suddenly froze on the spot. The Supreme Elder's face turned purple. He had never expected that the path chosen of the Shui clan would be killed in such a short time. You? What else do you want to do? Do you know what kind of disaster you'll bring to the various clans in the North region by killing the path chosen of the Shui clan? The Supreme Elder forced himself to remain calm. However, Longchen acted as if he did not hear anything. He walked toward the Soul Greenvine clan. When he arrived in front of the Supreme Elder subconsciously took a few steps back. Longchen looked at him indifferently and said, "Aren't there 2 more path chosen? Let's get rid of them together today. Bring me to the Soul Greenvine clan." When the Supreme Elder heard Longchen's words, he was completely stunned. He stared at Longchen as if he was looking at a madman. However, after a short while, he agreed. He thought to himself, with 2 path chosen and the strength of the entire Soul Greenvine clan, Longchen will definitely be no match for them. Yi Hailan and Jian Shisan hurriedly came forward. Jian Shisan said, "Master, this is too dangerous. Once we head to the Soul Greenvine clan, we'll have to face the entire clan. Moreover, there are 2 path chosen. It's just 2 path chosen. I'd like to see what they're capable of." As Longchen spoke, he lifted the Supreme Elder on the stage with his hand. This scene caused the surrounding people to feel both shocked and amused at the same time. The Soul Greenvine clan's human king advanced stage expert did not even have the courage to attack Longchen. He was at the mercy of others. At the same time, in the Soul Greenvine clan's main hall, there were countless beautiful women lying on the ground. It was obvious that the Soul Greenvine clan had no scruples in currying favor with the Xia clan. 2 of the men's bodies suddenly shook, and the women beneath them were shocked into flesh and blood. "Big brother, the aura of third brother's divine soul has disappeared. Didn't you say that no one in the North region dares to go against the Xia clan?" One of the blood-haired men shouted sternly. The other person's face was cold. When he heard that, there was a flash of light in his hand, and a jade token appeared. It was a pity that the jade token had already shattered into pieces. "Let's go. I'd like to see who dares to go against the Xia clan. There's actually someone in the North region who can kill third brother." However, just as the 2 of them walked out of the Soul Greenvine clan's formation, they saw the space in front of them being torn apart. One by one, the human kings of the Soul Greenvine clan appeared. Jian Shisan and the others followed closely behind. The moment they appeared, 5 to 6 human kings of the Soul Greenvine clan went up to greet them. One of the sturdy middle-aged men with green vine patterns all over his body said in a deep voice, "Did you bring back the sky-reaching Bauhinia vine? How was the battle with the God Wolf clan? Why did you alarm the Taoists?" The man shouted at the elder on the stage. He did not seem to notice Longchen and the others. He only thought of them as a vassal ancient clan. Just as he finished speaking, the two Taoists in the Blood Green Vine clan stood up. However, the two Taoists from the Shui clan rose into the air and asked coldly, "Why did my third brother die?" As soon as they said that, the leader of the Soul Green Vine clan with green vine patterns suddenly trembled. He said in a trembling voice, Two Taoists, what did you say?" One of the three Taoists from the Xia clan who had just left was actually dead. The Soul Green Vine clan could not absolve themselves from the blame for the death of their Taoist. At this moment, the white-haired Grand Elder walked up with an ashen face. He said in a trembling voice, "Third young master was killed by this person." Chapter 340. Meet the Dao Zilongchen forced the people of the Soul Green Vine clan to tear the space and arrive behind the Soul Green Vine clan. The various ancient clans arrived one after another. However, they all looked at each other from afar, not daring to get close. Is Longchen really from the north of the northern region? Whether it's his martial skill, movement skill, or bloodline power, I'm afraid they're not any weaker than an ancient bloodline. It's a pity that man proposes but God disposes. If the Xia clan hadn't come, the north region might have really changed hands. Although the Soul Ivy clan was the ruling clan of the northern region, the other ancient clans could replace them. In fact, the four one-star ancient clans only cared about the resources on the sacred mountain. As for whether the ruling clan of the North region was the God Wolf clan or the Soul Green Vine clan, they simply disdained to care. Unfortunately, the Xia clan had already reached a deal with the Soul Green Vine clan. Moreover, one of them had died at the hands of Long Chen. The eyes of the two Taoists from the Xia clan were filled with murderous intent. They followed the gaze of the Soul Green Vine clan's supreme elder and looked at Long Chen. One of them said coldly, "Are you saying that this person killed my third brother?" The Taoist from the Shui clan spoke with a hint of bewilderment. Seeing the Grand Elder nod, the other person suddenly shouted, "You're saying that this young man killed my third brother? Do you think I'm a 3-year-old child? Could it be that your Soul Ivy clan wants to be exterminated?" Plop. That Supreme Elder only felt an immense pressure pressing down on his shoulders in an instant. Although the two of them were young and were only in the human king realm, he could feel his soul trembling. Although he was a late-stage human king, he had only comprehended one type of rule power. Compared to this 3-star ancient race Tao disciple, he was of little value. In the wasteland, all the Taoists were outstanding talents and had countless resources. Fighting above their level was a piece of cake for them. The white-haired Grand Supreme Elder knelt on the ground like a dead dog and cried out, "Taoists, you've misunderstood. He's not a subordinate disciple of our clan right now. He's from the north of the North region. This time, he was the one who opened the 6th level of the Divine Mountain. He even took most of the resources that appeared in the Divine Mountain. That's not all. Although he is only a young man and is only at the Tao integration realm, he was able to kill the Killer King with a wave of his hand. He definitely has the potential to become a Tao child." The Grand Supreme Elder still seemed to have a lingering fear in his heart. As he spoke, he couldn't help but glance at Long Chen, who wasn't far away from him. Long Chen had single-handedly killed several late-stage human kings from the God Wolf clan. He had even killed the Taoist of the Shui clan. This had truly shocked him. What's the point of saying so much? Since I'm here to fight. Long Chen said indifferently. The Spirit Green Vine clan leader immediately stood up and said in a deep voice, "So what if you have monstrous combat strength? These two are Taoists of the 3-star ancient clan. Can you bear the wrath of the 3-star ancient clan?" The two Taoists of the Shui clan looked deeply at Long Chen and said coldly, "Since my third brother died in your hands, everyone who is related to you today will die. And your Spirit Green Vine clan. It seems like the God Wolf clan should rule over the clan. Your clan has disappointed me too much." Upon hearing the words God Wolf clan, the surrounding people's expressions became extremely strange. The Grand Supreme Elder said softly, "At least 80% of the God Wolf clan's combat strength has been killed by this person. I'm afraid the God Wolf clan only has the strength of a 7-star ancient clan now. As long as the two Taoists kill this person, our clan is willing to give you 1,000,000 top-grade spirit stones every year." Currently, the Shui clan was the Spirit Green Vine clan's last hope. When the two Taoists heard that nearly 80% of the God Wolf clan's combat strength had been killed by Long Chen, their expressions changed slightly. Then, they looked at Long Chen and said, "I didn't expect the North region to have such a genius. However, you shouldn't have provoked the Shui clan today." The two of them didn't say anything else. They immediately cut off Long Chen's escape route one after another. Yi Hailan, Jian Shan, and more than 100 people behind them activated the battle formation again. They were prepared to fight the enemy together with Long Chen. The Spirit Green Vine clan was also eager to make a move. However, at this moment, Long Chen casually glanced at the two Taoists in front of him and said nonchalantly, "You don't have to do anything. They're just two Taoists of the 3-star ancient clan at the 3rd stage Human King realm." As soon as Long Chen finished speaking, the Spirit Green Vine clan members looked at him as if they were looking at an idiot. The surrounding people who were watching from afar exclaimed in surprise. "Does this person know who he's going to fight? These are two Taoists. These two Taoists have both comprehended the power of 6 rules. Although they're only at the 3rd stage Human King realm, even a late-stage Human King is no match for them. Where does he get his confidence from? Does he think that he's invincible just because he defeated a Taoist?" The two Taoists of the Shui clan were stunned. Then, they flew into a rage and said, "You're so arrogant after killing my 3rd brother. If I don't kill you today, where will the Shui clan's dignity go?" As the person shouted, the two of them didn't hesitate at all. Divine Technique, Wild Wind Saber. Divine Technique, Sweeping Wind. The two of them charged toward Long Chen with their saber wind like a tidal wave. In an instant, their bodies emitted a towering divine light. Saber blades shot out one after another, bringing about endless wind blades. Each blade was at least 1,000 feet long, and the power of rules within them fluctuated one after another. Rumble. The moment the saber blades fell, the 100-meter-tall mountains were instantly cut into countless pieces of gravel wherever the radiance passed. More than a dozen ancient clan Human Kings who were watching from afar were instantly pulverized. Only their souls escaped. In front of a 3-star ancient clan Taoist, the northern region Human Kings were completely vulnerable. Long Chen was the first to bear the brunt. The scales on his body instantly transformed into the body of a green dragon. "Wind, come." As the body of the azure dragon appeared, Long Chen's long sword moved slightly. Dark clouds covered the sky once again, and the surroundings suddenly became dark. The overflowing rain azure dragon physique was the 3rd Dharma body of the heavenly dragon vein. It could control the power of wind and rain. Countless gusts of wind appear out of thin air like sharp blades, and Long Chen's sword instantly intertwined with the attacks of the two. Chi! Chi! The sound of space exploding rang out one after another. Countless wind blades were blasted away along with the power of laws. The screams of the Green Soul Vine clan's members rang out incessantly. Whether they were Dao fusing experts or Human King experts, they were all torn to pieces in an instant. The expression of the patriarch of the Soul Green Vine clan instantly changed drastically, and he stared at this scene with astonishment as he retreated madly. Activate the Guardian Formation. The people behind Long Chen also retreated 10,000 meters. Countless eyes stared at the three of them in shock. The three of them actually retreated a few hundred meters. The two Taoists of the Shui clan stared at Long Chen. The contempt in their eyes had already disappeared, and they were immediately filled with solemnity. They said in a deep voice, "A bloodline that can mobilize the power of heaven and earth. The northern region actually has such a high-grade bloodline." Chapter 341. The Tao disciple of the massacre. After a short conversation, the two of them started to take Long Chen seriously. The Soul Ivy clan even activated the clan protection formation because of the battle between the three of them. The Grand Supreme Elder's face was ashen. He never expected Long Chen to be so strong. "Clan leader, if Long Chen wins, I'm afraid our clan will end up worse than the God Wolf clan," the Grand Supreme Elder said in a low voice. A hint of fear flashed across the clan leader's face. Long Chen was just a Tao integration stage cultivator, but he had defeated 3 Dao integration stage cultivators and the Leaking clan. He was too terrifying. If he didn't die today, the Soul Ivy clan would have no place in the North region. The 2 Dao disciples and Long Chen continued to fight. In the blink of an eye, there were more than 100 of them. The wind and clouds changed color, and the mountains shook. The entire Soul Ivy clan's territory seemed to be experiencing an earthquake. The clan leader, a burly middle-aged man, saw this scene and asked coldly, "Did you obtain the red bud vine on this trip to the Divine Mountain?" The white-haired Grand Supreme Elder hurriedly replied, "Yes, but is there enough time?" The middle-aged man with green tattoos shouted coldly, "Let the Patriarch be ready to come out of seclusion at any time. If Long Chen loses, the Patriarch can naturally slowly integrate with this item, and our clan can continue to dominate the North region. If Long Chen wins, let the Patriarch swallow this item by force." The Grand Supreme Elder was startled when he heard this and replied, "If the Patriarch swallows this item by force, won't he go?" The middle-aged man interrupted him coldly. On the other side, the 2 Dao disciples' bone-deep wounds healed rapidly. They stared at Long Chen in shock. On the other hand, although Long Chen's body was covered in wounds, they were very light. The 2 of them looked at each other. Without any hesitation, a bloody glow shone from their bodies and they instantly transformed into their bloodline true forms. In an instant, the 2 giant pythons covered the sky and covered the sun. The mountain-like body of the blood python swept toward Long Chen, and countless wind blade laws covered it. Blood python swallows the sky. At the same time, both of them used their innate abilities at the same time, using their heads and tails at the same time. Long Chen was instantly pushed back 10,000 meters, and there was a trace of blood at the corner of his mouth. The strength of these 2 Taoists was far superior to that of the one he had killed. He felt as if his internal organs were about to be torn apart by the intense tearing force around him. The green light around his body started to flicker like a star. Long Chen looked at the sky and said coldly, "In my name, I summon the power of the rain." As Long Chen's voice fell, the dark clouds in the sky suddenly condensed into a black wall. The heavy rain came in an instant. Wong! As the raindrops fell, they actually turned into a green color, resonating with Long Chen. Countless ancient race clansmen felt their hair stand on end as they fled in all directions. Countless human kings tore through space in a frenzy. Every raindrop streaked across the sky. It tore a huge hole in space. For a moment, the sky was riddled with holes like a rag. "Kill!" Following Long Chen's thunderous voice, the green light surged toward the 2 Taoists like a tide. The 2's special abilities were instantly shattered. This was because countless space cracks had appeared in front of them. The raindrops gathered and turned into the shape of a dragon, arriving instantly like a ferocious beast. Every raindrop had the power to tear through space, and it was so terrifying that the surrounding human kings were paralyzed on the ground. Chi, 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 chi. Tens of thousands of bloody rays were instantly torn into countless pieces of flesh and blood, which fell into the space cracks. In the end, not even a trace of blood was left. The 2 Taoists of the Xia clan did not even have the chance to scream before their bodies were destroyed. Their bodies were destroyed, and their souls immediately rushed out. Above their souls, their eyes were filled with fear. Long Chen's special ability had completely destroyed their minds. Today, the 2 of us have lost. However, what awaits you is the endless fury of my clan. Their souls transmitted their divine thoughts and instantly turned into green smoke, wanting to leave. However, what happened next made them tremble. "You want to leave now? It's too late." Long Chen sneered. He grabbed the air with his right hand, and the 2 souls actually rolled back. The 2 of them felt as if there was an invisible wall suppressing the 2 of them. With their cultivation, even Long Chen would not be able to catch up to them if they escaped immediately. However, now that only their souls were left, they were like fish on a chopping block in Long Chen's eyes. "How can this be? You're clearly only in the path integration realm. Even if your bloodline power is monstrous, your divine thought cannot reach such a level. God imprisonment domain, you? How did you do it? How can your divine thought be so strong?" The god imprisonment domain was not a martial art technique, nor was it a special ability. It was a divine thought technique that only appeared in the human emperor realm. This technique used a powerful divine thought to imprison souls that were weaker than the users. Long Chen was able to imprison their souls with his divine thought, which meant that his divine thought was far stronger than theirs. On the other side, the people in all directions were frightened by Long Chen's bloodline power. They either fled or ran away. Only less than a dozen ancient clans were watching from tens of thousands of meters away. At this moment, they were also looking at Long Chen with fear. Everyone's eyes were filled with shock. The bloodline power just now was like directly manipulating the power of heaven and earth. It was really too terrifying. Many human kings behind the Spirit Ivy clan leader were also pale. None of them still had the will to fight. They had already been shocked by Long Chen's combat power. Poof, poof. No matter how their souls screamed, Long Chen was unmoved. He waved his hand and destroyed their souls. Then, streaks of invisible bloodline power instantly entered his body. The two of them were Taoists of the 3-star ancient clans. Their bloodline power was extremely strong, far stronger than the North region human kings. After devouring their bloodline power, the blood in his body finally turned into 5 colors. The heavenly dragon bloodline's 4th Dharma body, 5 elements azure dragon. The green glow around Long Chen's body dissipated, and the wounds on his body instantly disappeared. As the bloodline power was perfected, the 5 elements azure dragon body was awakened. For a moment, he only felt that the entire world had undergone a strange change. The pulse of the earth, the pulse of flames from the exotic fire beast, and the water droplets flowing underground, it was as if the 5 elements law had a panoramic view at this moment. The 5 elements law had gathered. Long Chen knew that he was about to step into the human king realm. After the 2 Taoists died, Long Chen stared at the Spirit Ivy clan in the clan guarding array. He saw Hun Qianfan standing among the many human kings with an ashen face. Thinking back to when he had just entered the North region and this person's advice, he frowned and said, "Your clan once helped my Tsangji clan. Although the grudge has been settled, I'll still let you go today. Wait." Seeing that Long Chen was about to turn and leave, the Spirit Ivy clan leader shouted coldly, "Today, I won't let you go. You killed 3 Taoists of the Xia clan. When the Xia clan comes, my clan will definitely be buried with you." Chapter 342. Step into the human sovereign realm. After killing the 3 Taoists of the Shui clan, the various ancient clans in the North region had already started to respect Long Chen from the bottom of their hearts. But no one had expected that a storm would actually arise in the Soulvine clan at this time. Has the Soul Ivy clan gone mad? Long Chen is currently like the sun in the midday sky, yet they still dare to provoke him. Long Chen has tolerated this race time and time again. Could it be that he still can't see the situation clearly? Could it be that the Soul Ivy clan still has a backup plan? The various ancient clans were extremely shocked. With the combat strength that Long Chen had displayed, everyone really did not know where the Spirit Ivy clan got the courage to become enemies with him. Long Chen also frowned slightly. He slowly shook his head and said, "I have already done everything I can for your clan. If you don't know, then don't blame me." Long Chen felt sympathy in his heart, but he did not expect that the Soul Ivy clan would still be so overbearing. The Soul Azure Vine revealed a bitter smile as he stood among the many sovereign personages of his clan. With so many of the Soul Azure Vine's upper echelon gathered here, he no longer had the right to speak. Just as everyone was wondering where the Soul Ivy clan got the confidence to fight against Long Chen, the Soul Ivy clan, an extremely powerful aura slowly rose from the center of the Soul Greenvine clan. A shriveled old man in a dark green robe rose into the air. The moment this person appeared, the Green Vine tribe chief and the many upper echelons revealed a smile on the corners of their mouths. Everyone stared at Long Chen with ridicule. The clan leader spoke directly, "Today, if you cripple your own cultivation, surrender yourself, and head to the Xia clan to receive your punishment, the people behind you might still be able to survive and become our slaves." The old man walked over slowly in the air. Every step he took caused the space to tremble and ripples to spread out. Hiss. The expressions of the surrounding ancient clans changed simultaneously. Everyone from the Soul Ivy clan was overjoyed. This was the cultivation of the perfection of the human king realm. Not only that, but everyone also saw the Skirich Bauhinia vine in his hand. The old man walked to the front of the crowd and looked deeply at Long Chen. He said, "Kid, do you still want me to attack? With this Bauhinia vine, I can possess the power of a half-step human sovereign for a short time. You can only die." Everyone shook their heads one after another. No one expected the Soul Ivy clan to have such a foundation. If this person could possess the cultivation of a human king realm for a short time, Long Chen would definitely die. Although his battle prowess was heaven-defying, he was still only a Dao integration stage cultivator. However, his battle prowess that could fight against a human king was ultimately nothing but an illusion in the face of a half-step human emperor. Long Chen's hearts Bauhinia. Long Chen's Blood Ivy clan. This Bauhinia vine was something he had left behind for the Green Vine Soul clan. He had never thought that this item would give him an opponent who was half a step into the Runhuang realm. However, Long Chen did not regret. This was his principle. No matter if it was in his previous life or this life, he would never owe anyone anything. Of Chen's of his 6. King Human Sovereign Realm. Then let me see what you're capable of. As Long Chen's voice fell, the 5-colored divine light around him shot up into the sky. The scales on his body quickly faded away and were replaced by 5-colored scales. The 4th Dharmakaya of the Heavenly Dragon bloodline, the 5 elements Azure Dragon. When the surrounding people saw Long Chen's scales change again, they all revealed strange expressions. They were extremely curious about the power of Long Chen's bloodline. Whoosh! Whoosh! The sound of the air being torn apart resounded as the 5 elements' power from all directions rapidly converged towards Long Chen. The power of the 5 elements laws surged into Long Chen's Dantian. Long Chen, who was already at the Dao integration final stage, had his aura rising steadily. The dragon's soul in his body breathed out, and the 3,000 scales on his body lit up. The 5 elements Azure Dragon body helped him gather the laws of the 5 elements. Wang! A formless wave of qi spread out from Long Chen's body in all directions. Not good. This person is about to step into the human king realm. The expression of the Spirit Green Vine clan's patriarch suddenly changed. Long Chen's combat power was monstrous. If he stepped into the human king realm, the outcome would still be uncertain. The skinny old man in the green robe sighed. The Chinese red bud vine in his hand was instantly stabbed into his chest and then disappeared. Rays of purple light instantly covered the old man's entire body. His bones emitted a strange sound that made one's scalp tingle. At the same time, his shriveled body was filling up at a speed visible to the naked eye. This person forcibly merged with the Chinese red bud vine, and his cultivation instantly rose to the King Human Sovereign Realm. Divine Technique, Vine Purgatory. The King Human Sovereign Realm expert appeared above Long Chen in the blink of an eye. His speed was so fast that it was as if he had teleported. He formed a seal with his right hand and pressed down on Long Chen. Ancient vines covered the sky and covered the sun. They were covered in a dark purple color, and they instantly wrapped around Long Chen. Would laws disperse? The ancient vines cut through the space. As they strangled, Long Chen's voice came from within like thunder. Green light soared into the sky. Countless trees within a radius of tens of thousands of meters were scorched. The green mountains turned yellow in an instant. The King Human Sovereign Realm expert's divine technique was also shattered in an instant. The attack, which was originally full of laws, was actually vulnerable. Bang! Long Chen directly leaped out. The 5-colored divine light around his body soared into the sky. He slammed his sword into the King Human Sovereign Realm expert's chest. Poochie! A huge bloody hole appeared. The King Human Sovereign Realm expert flew back thousands of meters and slammed into the Spirit Green Vine clan's protective formation, setting off monstrous ripples. How is this possible? he actually defeated the King Human Sovereign Realm expert. The Spirit Green Vine clan has always broken through to the Human King realm by comprehending the wood laws. This person has temporarily stepped into the King Human Sovereign realm with the Chinese Redbud Vine, but look at the radius of 10,000 miles now. Longchen actually deprived this place of the wood laws. How did he do it? Cries of astonishment rose and fell all around. The King Human Sovereign Realm expert of the Spirit Green Vine clan looked at the big hole in his chest and stared at Longchen in horror. You have reached the Human King realm? But even if that's the case, why are you able to mobilize all the laws of wood? Even my laws of wood are completely suppressed. This is impossible. The King Human Sovereign Realm expert did not expect Longchen to step into the Human King realm in an instant. Moreover, he seemed to have an unprecedented understanding of the wood laws. Longchen walked over slowly but did not answer him. He, who had stepped into the Human King realm, resonated with the body of the 5 elements Azure Dragon. He had already mastered all the 5 elements and 3,000 great paths in the world. However, all the laws within the 5 elements were ineffective against him. You have long passed your limit. Now, you are just forcibly prolonging your life. Your cultivation seems to be at the King Human Sovereign Realm, but in reality, it is less than half of your strength. Today, you will definitely lose. Longchen's voice was indifferent. The fingertip of his right hand moved, and countless flames appeared out of thin air around the King Human Sovereign Realm expert. The power of the laws rose and fell one after another. Even though I am about to die, I am still a King Human Sovereign Realm expert. Even if I die, I will not be so cowardly. In the flames, the old man suddenly shouted. As soon as the old man's voice fell, his entire body turned into a purple vine. In an instant, he shot toward Longchen's head like an arrow. Longchen's face suddenly darkened. The scabbard in his left hand slashed forward. When the scabbard came into contact with the green vine that the old man had turned into, it instantly shattered. Chapter 343. With a wave of his hand, he beheaded 1,000 people. Seeing half of his body turn into bones, Longchen couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. This person was just a half-step human sovereign, and his cultivation was forcefully raised by the Redbud Vine. Even so, it was already so terrifying. Longchen's 5 elements radiated brilliantly, and his flesh was instantly regenerated. After the old man died, his spirit dissipated instantly. This half-step human sovereign's body had already lost all its vitality, and even his spirit was forcefully condensed. Otherwise, even if Longchen was a human sovereign, he wouldn't have won so easily. At this moment, the faces of the Soul Ivy clan members were like pig's liver, and the clan leader couldn't help but tremble. The half-step human sovereign was defeated in an instant after Longchen broke through to the human sovereign realm. At the same time, Longchen slowly walked forward and arrived in front of the Soul Ivy clan's protective formation. Flames appeared on his right arm, and the air suddenly exploded with an ear-piercing sound. The protective formation that was originally set ablaze with green smoke in an instant. Ah! The moment the formation broke, the entire Soul Ivy clan trembled and cried out in fear. Longchen's current combat power was so strong that the Soul Ivy clan had no way to resist it. Plop, plop. The clan leader of the Soul Ivy clan saw Longchen walking toward him, and he felt his knees go soft, and he knelt on the ground. From today onwards, the Soul Ivy clan is no longer a 4-star ancient clan. Unfortunately, before the clan leader could speak, Longchen waved his hand, and earth spikes shot into the sky. Almost 1,000 Soul Ivy clan's king-level powerhouses died in an instant. Then, Longchen grabbed the air with his right hand, and the souls of almost 1,000 human kings were shattered. Jianshi San, Yi Hailan, and the 100 human kings that Longchen brought were stunned when they saw this scene. More than 1,000 human kings were killed with a wave of his hand and a smile. The members of the Soul Green Vine clan were all shivering. The blood on the ground dyed the Soul Green Vine clan red. The clan leader was still kneeling on the ground. His face was covered in dust and blood, but he didn't dare to raise his head. Longchen walked casually, but it was as if he had done something insignificant. He looked at Hun Qianfan in the distance. In the end, he said indifferently, "From today onwards, you are the patriarch of the Soul Greenvine clan." After that, his voice paused for a moment before he continued. "This is the last chance I'm giving your clan. If this happens again, then the Northern Territory will cease to have the Soulvine clan." Hun Qianfan was stunned for a moment before he hurriedly slashed out and bowed. His face was full of bitterness. That day, when he fought Longchen at the border of the northern region, he also used all of his strength to take 3 moves from him. Now, only a few short months had passed, and Longchen no longer feared the northern region's human kings, and he suppressed the Taoist. The surroundings were so quiet that it made one's heart palpitate. Since Longchen didn't say anything, no one dared to make any noise. After a long while, Longchen nodded slightly. He looked at the Soul Greenvine clan's land and said in a deep voice, "From today onwards, this place will be the land of my desolate clan. Your clan will head to the God Wolf clan and kill all of their clansmen. This land will be your clan's new land." Longchen recalled Yu Tian's determination to die in battle when he fell into a demonic state in the Divine Mountain. Since Yu Tian had once followed him, he would exterminate the God Wolf clan for him today. Hun Qianfan waved his hand and led his clan out of the mountain. The surrounding ancient clans sighed endlessly. The ruling clan of the northern region was like a stray dog today. However, everyone knew that Longchen was already extremely benevolent by not exterminating this clan. "Patriarch, it's time for you to go." When the Soul Greenvine clan's clansmen left the mountain, Hun Qianfan raised his whip, and the 1,000-man patriarch's body shattered as he laughed bitterly. His soul also burned on its own. Longchen glanced at him and didn't say anything. He only nodded slightly. Hun Qianfan's action was to tell him that the Soul Greenvine clan would no longer be hostile. Longchen slowly stepped into the Soul Greenvine clan's territory. Yi Hailan Jianshirsan followed closely behind him. There were only 100 of them in such a huge clan. The surrounding ancient clans had already retreated. If it was in the past, the ruling clan would definitely not be replaced by such a scene. If the God Wolf clan had defeated the Soul Greenvine clan, the other ancient clans would have already surrounded them and surrendered, voluntarily becoming their subordinate clan. However, although Longchen's combat power was overwhelming, none of the ancient clans dared to befriend him. Everyone knew the reason: it was the Xia clan. The Xia clan in the Waste region had at least 3 human sovereign realm experts. Now, all 3 of their Taoists had died at the hands of Longchen. In the Divine Arrow clan, the disciples of the 5 major sects who had abandoned Longchen looked at each other. The 3 sect masters' expressions were very interesting. It was hard to tell if they were regretful or surprised. When Longchen had led them to the North region, they had been fearful because they had offended the God Wolf clan. However, not only had Longchen destroyed the God Wolf clan, but he had also stripped the Soul Greenvine clan of their ruling position. He had even killed 3 Taoists. Especially when there were only 100 people behind him, these 100 people were the disciples of the 5 major sects, but now they had all become human kings. Just 100 of them could fight more than 1,000 human kings. What are you still looking at? Hurry up and leave. Do you really think this is a backer? I'm afraid the Xia clan of the Waste region will send people here in less than a month. The elder of the Divine Arrow clan was livid. He was even more fearful of Longchen. He urged the people of the Shumi clan to leave quickly. However, the disciples of the Shumi clan stood there in a daze. Among them, a few disciples of the Way of the Virtual Saint level were flushed. They could not help but say, a few of those 100 people were disciples of the Wanjian sect. They were just core disciples. His cultivation is even lower than mine, but now he has become a human king. When we came to the North region and became the subordinates of the Divine Arrow clan, we were suppressed everywhere. However, those disciples who were weaker than us have reached a level that I might not be able to reach in decades. The voices of the Divine Arrow clan's subordinates rose and fell. Many disciples of the Shumi clan rushed toward the Soul Greenvine clan one after another. The 3 elders of the 100 Smelting clan turned purple. There was an indescribable sense of loss in their hearts. Humph, if you want to join the Tsangji clan, I won't stop you. However, think carefully. What awaits you is the crazy revenge of the 3-star ancient Xia clan. The elder of the Divine Arrow clan was livid. He snorted coldly and left with a flick of his sleeve. The 3 elders looked at the disciple of the Shumi clan behind them. They did not know whether it was the right choice to join the Divine Arrow clan that day. After nearly 1,000 people went to the Soul Greenvine clan to follow Long Chen's footsteps, the 3 elders finally looked at each other and left with the remaining disciples. Regardless of whether it was right or wrong, today's path was their choice. Anyone could turn back, but the 3 of them could not. They were too ashamed to do so. In the Soul Greenvine clan's territory, Long Chen's eyes were filled with fear. However, no one stopped. He could not help but sneer. Chapter 344. Master's wife at the foot of an extremely cold ice mountain more than 10,000 miles away from the North region in the wasteland. A group of human kings wearing blood-colored python robes rushed up the mountain. The wasteland was located in the center of the ancient Desolation Land. At the center of the wasteland, which was also the center of the entire ancient Desolation Land, were the corpses of the 5 godly state wills. Because of the existence of these corpses, the power of space in the wasteland was extremely chaotic. Even human kings couldn't travel in the air or tear space apart. Many human kings wearing blood-colored python robes rushed up the ice mountain and saw that the ice and snow in the sky had turned blood red. Among them, a square-faced man with blood-red hair stood in the air. His murderous intent seemed to have materialized, causing the mountain under his feet to crackle and crack. This person was a 3-star ancient clan, the Xia family. When the group of human kings in blood-colored python robes saw this square-faced middle-aged man, they immediately knelt on one knee and said, "Clan leader, although the human emperor of the Mountain Kuei clan has died in battle, the remaining clan members are still difficult to deal with. If it wasn't for the man named Marquis Feng Qing, this clan would have been exterminated. Now, we have returned in defeat. Enough." Just as the voices of the few human kings in the lead fell, the square-faced middle-aged man standing in the air stopped them. Everyone immediately kept quiet. The middle-aged man said coldly, "The Mountain Kuei clan has been defeated. The North region is already under our control. 1-star Bright Moon Ancient clan has already allowed us to take over their previous position. However, the nameplates of our clan's 3 path chosen were all shattered 2 days ago." Hiss. As soon as this was said, the expressions of the Xia family's human kings who had just returned changed drastically. One of them even exclaimed, "How is this possible? Eldest young master is only 26 years old and has already become a human king. He has even comprehended 6 types of rule power. Second young master and third young master are not weak either. Who in the North region can kill them?" 3 path chosen had been killed, and all of them had died in the North region. This shocked and enraged all of them. It had been a long time since the Xia family and ancient clan's younger generation had such a rare genius. Among the 3 path chosen, only the eldest young master was slightly more talented. However, the Xia family had used countless resources to raise their abilities to the human king level. In the wasteland, the name of a Taoist sometimes represented the rise and fall of a clan. Now, all 3 of them were dead. This was undoubtedly a huge blow to the Xia clan. Give up on pursuing the Mountain Kuei race. Take another 300 late-stage sovereign personages and head to the northern region. Anyone who has anything to do with the death of my clan's Taoist will be exterminated." The middle-aged man's words made the group of blood-robed human kings who had just returned shudder. The leader frowned slightly and said in a low voice, "The Mountain Kuei tribe has connections with many ancient clans. If we give up on pursuing them now, we will be in big trouble in the future." The Shui clan leader's face suddenly turned cold. Just as he was about to scold him, a leisurely voice came from the sky. "You all continue to hunt down the Mountain Kuei clan. Third granduncle and I will personally deal with the matter of the northern region in 3 months. The 2 of us have just made a breakthrough in our cultivation. After this period of time has stabilized, we can go to the northern region to find many cultivation furnaces." At the instant that voice appeared, Even the Xia family's clan leader bent down and nodded repeatedly when he heard it. This person was the fourth human sovereign personage of the Shui clan. Third granduncle had just broken through to the third level of the human sovereign personage. It was also because of the appearance of the fourth human sovereign personage and the birth of the third human sovereign personage. The Shui clan and ancient clans were able to turn the tables on the Mountain Kuei clan and seize control of the northern region. Now that two more human sovereigns were heading to the northern region, the Xia family's clan leader didn't say anything more. In the northern region, many disciples of the Shumi clan sought refuge, and Longchen accepted it gladly. In the following period, he would occasionally enter the sacred mountain through the Void Throne and obtain many resources. He even connected part of the mountain to a cave. In the blink of an eye, a month had passed. Human sovereign personages continuously appeared in the Zhangji clan. Almost everyone was a human sovereign personage. The speed of the increase in numbers had already spread throughout the northern region. What's going on? A month has passed, and no one from the Shui clan of the Waste region has come. Could it be that the Shui clan has lost control of the northern region again? I remember that in the past, it was the Mountain Kuei clan who entered the Spirit Ivy clan. Hun Qianfan of the Spirit Ivy clan has unprecedented courage. After destroying the God Wolf clan, he immediately sought refuge with the Zhangji clan. Hun Qianfan is really courageous. He is willing to swear on his clan's bloodline that they will never betray him. Now that half a month has passed, there are already close to a human sovereign personage in his clan. I don't care. 2 days ago, I saw the Iron Tree clan heading to the Zhangji clan. In a month's time, the northern region had undergone earth-shattering changes. The God Wolf clan was destroyed. Half a month ago, the Spirit Ivy clan, under the leadership of Hun Qianfan, sought refuge with the Zhangji clan led by Long Chen. They became the first vassal clan of the Zhangji clan. Although the Zhangji clan only had 1,000 people, their ruling power in the northern region far surpassed that of the Spirit Ivy clan in the past. In the Zhangji clan, with a long sword in hand, Longchen casually repelled Jian Shan with a few strikes. His face was full of smiles. He looked at Jian Shan and praised, "You have mastered all 3 moves of the formless sword art. The god-level sword art that I taught you has been transformed into a saint-level sword art. It's really rare." Jian Shan bowed deeply. In the past month, Longchen had been either cultivating or teaching him swordsmanship. Jian Shan's cultivation had improved by leaps and bounds. "Master, Missy should have come out of seclusion," Jian Shan teased. He and Longchen were master and disciple, but they were also like brothers. These days, their relationship had reached the point where they could talk about anything. How could Jian Shan not see Longchen's feelings for Yi Hailan? In fact, the entire Zhangji clan now regarded Yi Hailan as Longchen's partner. Swoosh! Just as the two of them were talking, an illusory sword ray crossed the space and disappeared in an instant. Longchen's long sword moved slightly, and the illusory sword ray disappeared instantly. However, he murmured with a smile, "You reached level 6 of the Human King realm in a month. But this is how you thank me." Jian Shan looked sideways and saw Yi Hailan with a frosty face. Yi Hailan's cultivation speed was even more terrifying. He had reached level 6 of the Human King realm from level 1 of the Human King realm in a month. "Master's wife, good morning. Master's wife has come out of seclusion. Congratulations." Bang! 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 Several disciples who were passing by were instantly sent flying and fell from the mountain peak. Yi Hailan stared at Longchen with his beautiful eyes and said coldly, "You'd better explain this to me clearly." Longchen laughed and said, "It's okay. When I go to the waste domain, I'll explain." Chapter 345. The Word of Love on the peak of the Zhangji clan's mountain, swords crossed. Yi Hailan and Longchen fought in close quarters, their sword moves rising and falling one after another. Many human kings of the Zhangji clan watched from afar and shuddered. Master's wife is as beautiful as a fairy, but her battle strength is also so strong. I see that her attacks are so sharp, she really is Master's wife. Could it be that you've misunderstood? Misunderstood my ass. If this beauty is a master's wife, then what is she? What's more, her cultivation is the same as that Jian Shursan's eldest senior brother's. Crack, crack, crack. The sky gradually darkened. Jian Shursan had already tactfully left. The surrounding disciples also left one after another. It wasn't that they didn't want to continue watching and gossiping. It was because the two sword techniques were too terrifying. More than a dozen human kings had already been seriously injured by the aftershocks. Huff, huff. As the swords crossed, Yi Hailan finally stopped. She stared at Longchen coldly, but she couldn't stop panting. Like a willow leaf breathing, she was incomparably elegant. It was unknown whether it was from anger or exhaustion. Longchen was still standing indifferently. He stared at Yi Hailan, who was dripping with sweat and whose hair was slightly damp. A smile appeared on his lips. Yi Hailan saw Longchen looking at her like this and immediately snorted coldly and turned around. After a while, Yi Hailan said coldly, "How long are you going to stare? Tomorrow, you must clarify our relationship in front of everyone." "What relationship?" Longchen couldn't help but laugh. Yi Hailan was flustered. Looking at the sword in her hand, she only snorted coldly. At this moment, she felt that she really couldn't do anything to Longchen. She couldn't beat him in a fight, nor could she beat him in an argument. This decisive guy who took down the northern region with his own strength was actually so shameless in front of her. Looking at Yi Hailan's frosty face, her chest rose and fell violently from anger. In his previous life, he had only focused on revenge and wasted his life. The word love had never appeared in his world. Only now did he realize how wonderful this feeling was. When Longchen saw Yi Hailan's reaction, he stopped teasing him and said, "All right, let's not talk about this for now. I have something to tell you. Tomorrow, I'll be leaving the northern region for the wasteland." Yi Hailan slashed a huge crack in the grass beneath his feet and said, "What does it have to do with me? As of now, the Xia clan has yet to arrive. While I am away, you will be in charge of the overall situation. I have already set up a great formation here. Furthermore, I have also set up a spirit formation around the sacred mountain. At that time, even if the people from the Xia clan come, all of you will be able to escape unscathed. There's also the Void Throne. The 9th level of the Divine Mountain is a land of death for anyone. They can't even cultivate there. But for you, this is an unprecedented opportunity. With this item, you can enter it and cultivate as you please. Remember, don't go to other places of the sacred mountain. You don't know how to set up formations. It's extremely easy for you to be in danger. Also, for the people from the various ancient clans who want to rely on me, just follow the rules that I left behind. Choose those with good potential to stay in the clan. You don't have to care about their cultivation level. However, you must swear on your bloodline and plant the restriction that I left behind." Longchen's repeated instructions caused Yi Hailan to be in a daze. This guy. Did he really think that she was his wife? However, looking at Longchen's eloquent words and even words of concern, she couldn't refute him for a moment. She just nodded her head subconsciously. "Are you done?" Seeing that the sky was about to brighten, Yi Hailan finally couldn't help but ask, "Are you done?" Longchen was suddenly stunned. Shortly after, he smiled bitterly and shook his head. In the end, he looked up to the sky and laughed. In his previous life, Yi Hailan died of depression. It became his life's regret and made him feel guilty for the rest of his life. Now that Yi Hailan was in front of him, he was still thinking and worried about him before he left. For hundreds of years, he didn't know where his feelings came from. Longchen didn't seem to be the ruler of the 10 regions in his previous life. He seemed to be a young man who was worried about his lover. Longchen took a deep breath and shook his head fiercely. He turned around and soared into the sky, about to leave. "Why do you want to go to the waste region?" Just as he was about to leave, Yi Hailan's cold voice suddenly sounded. One question, 8 words. He didn't seem to be willing to say a word more. He didn't want to ask a word more. Longchen didn't even turn his head. He said, I'm looking for someone. Who? Someone just like you. Yi Zichen muttered. As soon as he finished speaking, Long Chen disappeared into the horizon. He didn't know how to say anything more to Yi Hailan. He didn't want to say anything more. Qing Xian had been with him since he was young. This relationship had long been ingrained in his bones. After Long Chen left, Jian Shan suddenly turned into a light rainbow and followed closely behind. Only Yi Hailan stood in the same place in a daze. He murmured, "Someone like me, rumble." A sword ray shot out from the long sword in her hand. A mountain 100 meters away was cut in half. She didn't know why she felt like this. She only felt that she had to vent her anger. Long Chen and Jian Shan passed through several ancient clans and used the teleportation formation. However, it still took more than 10 days to reach the waste region. Not only was it impossible to set up a teleportation formation in this area, but it was also impossible to tear the space apart. This was the special feature of the waste region. Jian Shan followed behind Long Chen. They didn't talk along the way. Seeing that they were about to enter the waste region, Long Chen couldn't help but ask, "If I like two women at the same time, what should I do?" Long Chen regretted it as soon as he said this. He felt that when it came to feelings, his experience in his previous life was completely useless. However, when he heard Jian Shan's answer, he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "I've never thought about this. I've never had feelings for a woman in my life. As long as you have a sword in your arms." After a pause, Jian Shan continued, "However, I don't think it's a bad idea. A real man should have 3 wives and 4 concubines. Master is like this. Even if you have 100 more women, it's fine." Long Chen kicked Jian Shan 1,000 meters away. He crashed into a mountain below and collapsed it. Wait until you meet a woman. Long Chen learned a truth today. Don't talk about feelings with a man who has a sword in his arms. Don't talk about women with a man who has never liked a woman. The two of them traveled for more than 10 days. The 2 men were really bored. They could only kill monsters along the way. However, when Jian Shan killed a monster at the human king level with a sword, he frowned deeply. "Master, this is already the 3rd monster that has lost all blood and energy. Even its crystal core has been taken out. A human king monster's body is like a stone. It can even move like a puppet. It's really strange." As soon as Jian Shan finished speaking, Long Chen sped up. A faint smile appeared at the corner of his mouth as he said, "We might have met an old friend." Chapter 346. Seeing Marquis Fengqing again, old friend? Jian Shan was very puzzled, but Long Chen revealed a smile at the corner of his mouth. Both of them sped up. After passing 2 mountains, they saw divine light. Occasionally, huge rocks would turn into giant beasts and die. Jian Shan saw this and said to Long Chen, "Master, this is the first time I've seen such a divine sense. This place was basically in the waste region, and the space was chaotic. Not to mention flying in the air and tearing the space, even divine sense could not spread out more than 100 meters. However, Long Chen was not affected at all. "All right, I've never seen you speak like this before. Go and save your brother," Long Chen said calmly. Although the space was chaotic, it was not enough to disturb his dominant level divine sense. And the old friend he saw was none other than Marquis Fengqing. Between the mountains, divine light flashed. Blood-robed human king experts charged forward, and their target was a group of black-robed men. These people had strange appearances and were extremely ugly. However, there was one person in the middle of the black-robed men who was being protected. This person was Marquis Fengqing. Sword 13 was instantly enraged when he saw this. His body was filled with killing intent, and the long sword in his hand rushed forward, blood splattered. 2 blood-robed human kings were instantly killed by Jian Shan. The Xia family's human king's expression changed. A 4th-level human king could not even take a single blow. Who dares to make an enemy out of the Xia family? You must be tired of living. The leader, a late-stage human king, shouted coldly. Ha! Longchen strode forward. Looking at the dozens of people in blood-red robes and blood-red hair, he felt that karma was really mysterious. He had waited in the North region for more than a month, but the Xia family did not come. Now that he had just arrived in the Waste region, he encountered the Xia family. When Marquis Fengqing saw Longchen and Jianshi San, he was stunned. At first, he was overjoyed, but then he frowned slightly. When the Mountain Kui race saw Jianshi San and Longchen, their leader immediately shouted, "Both of you, please retreat quickly. This is a feud between our race and the Xia clan. We cannot implicate you." Feng Qingho shook his head and smiled bitterly. "Since they're here, they won't leave. This man is my brother." Although Marquis Fengqing did not wish for Longchen to be involved with Jianshi San, he knew that Jianshi San would not turn a blind eye to it, much less leave. Longchen stepped forward and said, "Kill them all, kill them all." As soon as the 3 words came out, everyone from the Mountain Kui tribe and the king of the Shui family were stunned. The leader of the Xia clan laughed coldly and said in a stern voice, "2 human kings dare to speak such arrogant words again. Today, I will chop off your arms and legs first. If you take the Mountain Kui clan as well, I will destroy your entire clan." Marquis Fengqing's expression changed drastically. He quickly shouted, "Save them." The members of the Mountain Kui tribe listened to Marquis Fengqing's order and rushed out. However, Longchen said calmly, 13, I will kill this late-stage human king for you first. As for the others, let me see how much your swordsmanship has improved over the past month." As soon as he finished speaking, countless earth spikes pierced through the sky from the mountain. Countless vines shot out from all directions like swords and sabers. Bang! 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 The leader of the Shui family was a level 7 human king, but his body was instantly crushed into powder. Hiss! The surrounding people sucked in a breath of cold air, and the weapons in their hands trembled. At the same time, Jianshi San rushed into the crowd and slashed out with the broken sword in his hand. One after another, human kings died instantly under his sword. Who are these 2 people? Both of them have the power to kill human kings. Young Master Feng, didn't you come from the north of the North region? Are they really your brothers? Who is that young man? That person used so many rules of order and killed a late-stage human king instantly. How terrifying! The members of the Mountain Kui tribe stared at Longchen and were speechless. The members of the Shui family were scared out of their wits. None of them were a match for Jianshi San's 10 swords. In just a few hundred breaths, many human kings were only left with their godly souls. There were only a few divine souls, and all of them had terrified expressions. Who are you? How can you be so powerful and dare to go against the Shui family? The godly souls shouted. Shatter. Unfortunately, a scene that sent chills down everyone's spine appeared. Longchen sneered and grabbed the air with his right hand. The godly souls instantly turned into wisps of green smoke. Jianshi San walked slowly to Longchen and said in a deep voice, "Master, is there anything wrong with my swordsmanship?" Purplish gold sky-shaking sword technique, fiery wind cloud-breaking sword technique. However, you used the rules of order of sword to perfect the combination of hardness and gentleness, one type of rules of order of sword, but you can use all the sword techniques in the world. You have also upgraded the god-level sword technique to the saint level. What else can I teach you? Longchen smiled faintly and walked toward Marquis Fengqing. Marquis Fengqing and the members of the Mountain Kui tribe were speechless. Seeing Longchen walking toward them, the human kings of the Mountain Kui tribe quickly bowed. They were no match for Longchen. Marquis Fengqing shook his head and smiled bitterly. He never thought that he would see the 2 of them again so soon. Longchen patted Marquis Fengqing's shoulder and said, "Let's go." The 3 of us haven't drunk wine for a long time. The 3 of them walked toward the top of the mountain as the cold wind blew. The members of the Mountain Kui tribe stood below without saying a word. They only dared to wait. After drinking a few jars, Marquis Fengqing said, "I was very lucky to enter the North region and wander around the various clans. However, I met the Mountain Kuei tribe outside the Soul Green Vine tribe and came directly to the Waste region. The members of the Mountain Kuei tribe are honest people. They saved me from the fire and water. Unfortunately, they were not strong enough. The 3 human sovereigns were all killed. With my strength, I could only try my best to save this last group of people. Marquis Feng Qing had already condensed his Taoist body. His broken right arm had also recovered. After he finished speaking, he drank a few more cups. Long Chen finally knew why the Shui clan did not go to the North region. It was because of the Mountain Kuei tribe. Long Chen and Jian Shan looked at each other and shook their heads. Jian Shan could not help but snort coldly and said, "Now that you and I are reunited, our enemy is the same clan." The 3 Taoists of the Shui clan died in the North region. The members of the Mountain Kuei tribe stood at the bottom of the mountain. Their bodies trembled. Their eyes were filled with shock and beads of sweat could be seen on their foreheads. They never thought that the young man they met today would kill the 3 Taoists of the Shui clan. As a 3-star ancient clan, how could the Mountain Kuei tribe not know the importance of a Taoist to an ancient clan? On the top of the mountain, the 3 of them talked for a long time. Marquis Feng Qing asked, "Brother Long Chen, I wonder why you came to the Waste region today. You killed the 3 Taoists of the Shui clan. I'm afraid that there is no place for you in the North region or the Waste region." Long Chen shook his head and said, "I came to the Waste region because of the Jiuyin ancient people." After a pause, he revealed a look of anticipation and said, "There are also 3 people who have been waiting for me here for a long time." Chapter 347. Jiuyin Ancient People. All the human sovereigns of the Mountain Kuei clan were dead, and less than 1/10 of the clan members survived. If it weren't for Marquis Feng Qing's quick thinking and meticulous thinking, his clan would have been obliterated. After drinking, Jian Shan said to Marquis Feng Qing, "Big brother, even if you and your clan go to the North region, you will still die. Why don't you follow Master with me?" Jian Shan's words stunned Marquis Feng Qing. He shook his head and said, "The Shui clan now has 4 human sovereigns. 3 of them have reached the mid-stage of the human sovereign realm. His strength is already outstanding among the 3-star ancient clans. Not only that, but he is also on good terms with several 2-star Taoists of the Haoyu clan. These Taoists are rare prodigies of the 2-star ancient clans. Each of them is at the mid-stage of the human sovereign realm before the age of 30. Marquis Feng Qing's voice became lower and lower as he spoke. In his eyes, both Long Chen and the Mountain Kuei clan's lives were hanging by a thread. Long Chen smiled and remained silent from the beginning until the end. Sword 13 grunted coldly instead and said, "In this way, all of you should follow my master even more. Big brother, you may not know this, but since you left, Master has led the 5 major sects to establish a foothold in the North region of the ancient desolate region. Inside the Divine Mountain, he killed dozens of human sovereigns of the Divine Wolf clan with his power of the unification path. Outside the Divine Mountain, he killed nearly 1,000 human sovereigns of the Divine Wolf clan and defeated 3 Taoists. In a flash, he entered the human sovereign realm, defeated a half-step human sovereign realm, and conquered the Soul Green Vine clan. The North region is now under the rule of the Tsani clan." Jian Shan's words were like thunder. Marquis Feng Qing, who had been calm all this while, was aghast. At the foot of the mountain, the leader of the Mountain Kuei clan exclaimed, "Sir, are you telling the truth?" Jian Shan's words were like a fantasy story. However, if he was telling the truth, Long Chen would be their last straw of hope. With such an awe-inspiring appearance, he was not inferior to the Taoists of the ancient race. Marquis Feng Qing looked down at the Mountain Kuei clan, who were already exhausted from running for their lives, and suddenly walked up to Long Chen. Then, he bowed deeply and asked in a deep voice, 13 and I are as close as brothers." I have never doubted his words. But today, I want to ask you, can you save the Mountain Kuei clan and fight against the Shui clan? Long Chen raised his hand and an invisible force lifted Marquis Feng Qing up. Then, he said, "If I only rely on the forces of the northern region, I only need 1 year to destroy the Shui clan. However, it is only to protect their lives." As long as they return to the northern region, even if the Shui clan Ren Huang comes in person, he will not be able to break the matrix. The members of the Mountain Kuei clan were shocked. How could the North region annihilate a 3-star ancient clan within a year? This person's combat power is monstrous, but can we believe his words? There are 3 human sovereigns in the Shui family. Do we have any other choice now? We have been hunted down every day for the past few months. Our entire clan has been slaughtered by the Shui clan. Women and children are not spared. Marquis Feng Qing, if it were not for you, we would have died long ago. Today, we will listen to you. Marquis Feng Qing stared at Long Chen for a while. Then, he bowed to Long Chen without hesitation. Even though he had thousands of ideas, he was already in a desperate situation. Months of running for his life had exhausted him both physically and mentally. The combat power that Jianshi-san had just displayed was enough to prove Long Chen's ability. Long Chen looked at Marquis Feng Qing and said, "Don't worry. As long as the Shui clan does not send their human sovereign, you have nothing to fear." Marquis Feng Qing nodded slightly and said in a deep voice, "Since you want to go to the Jiuyin ancient people, we can go with you." The Mountain Kuei clan and the Nining giant corpse tribe have been good friends for generations. Moreover, as long as we step into the territory of the Jiuyin ancient people, the Shui clan will not send their human sovereign for us and arouse the suspicion of the Jiuyin ancient people. The few of them chatted for a while. Then, they turned around and walked towards the territory of the Jiuyin ancient people. The clan leader of the Shui clan looked at the pieces of broken jade tablets. He was furious. The Mountain Kuei clan was already on the verge of extinction. However, they were still alive even after a few months. 3 days later, the second group of Shui clan human kings set off from the clan to hunt down the Mountain Kuei clan. Today, Long Chen and the others were heading towards the territory of the Jiuyin ancient people day and night. In the blink of an eye, more than 10 days had passed. During this time, the second group of Shui clan human kings had caught up with Long Chen and the others. However, dozens of human kings were still killed. Now, the Jiuyin ancient people were right in front of them. The Jiuyin ancient people were considered to be in the upper echelons of the 3-star ancient clans. On top of the 9 continuous mountains, black palaces were surrounded by divine light. The leader of the Mountain Kuei clan suddenly realized something. He said, "The Jiuyin ancient people are going to hold an engagement ceremony for the 18-year-old in their clan. Are you here to congratulate them?" Long Chen smiled faintly. He said, "It's the opposite. I was supposed to come here when I was in the middle or later stages of the human king stage. However, I have no choice but to come here now." As Long Chen spoke, he walked straight to the gate of the Jiuyin ancient people. Jianshi-san quickly walked forward and knocked on the gate. Bang, bang, bang. After a series of knocks, the gate opened. 2 young men dressed in black appeared. The 2 of them looked respectful. They cupped their fists and asked, "Do you have an invitation? Which clan are you from? Are you here to send gifts?" Jianshi-san replied, "You are too polite. We are not from a clan here. We are from the North region. We are here to meet an old friend." As soon as Jianshi-san finished speaking, the 2 young men's expressions changed. One of them sneered and said, "North region? Get out of the way. Our clan doesn't accept outsiders. You must have an invitation before you can enter. Get out of the way. Don't ruin our clan's business. Otherwise, you will have to bear the consequences today." Seeing this, Jianshi-san's expression suddenly darkened. Long Chen remained calm and collected, as if waiting for something. On the other side, the leader of the Mountain Kuei clan hurriedly walked forward and said, "I am a remnant of the Mountain Kuei clan. My clan has been on good terms with the Nining giant corpse tribe for generations. Please let us in this time." As soon as the Mountain Kuei clan member finished speaking, the 2 gatekeepers were stunned at first. Then, they burst into laughter. Chapter 348. A Private Conversation. Since the Mountain Kuei clan was here, they could just chase them away. the leader of the Mountain Kuei clan immediately turned red and shouted angrily, How dare the Nining Giant Corpse tribe be so ungrateful? The Mountain Kuei clan and the Nining Giant Corpse tribe had been on good terms for generations. When the Nining Giant Corpse tribe was in trouble, the Mountain Kuei clan's human sovereign realm experts had helped them several times. When Marquis Feng Qing saw this, anger flashed across his face. He said in a low voice, when the Mountain Kuei clan was annihilated, the human sovereigns of the Jiuyin ancient people were not in the waste region. I'm afraid this was premeditated. It seems that the Jiuyin ancient people sold the Mountain Kuei clan to their new ally. The two gatekeepers sneered. They did not care about what the crowd said at all. Instead, they sneered and said, so what? Our clan has already signed an alliance with the Xia clan. You should get out of here. Our clan will not take you down and hand you over to the Xia clan today. Get out of here as far as you can. At this moment, Longchen walked up to the two of them slowly. He stared at them and said, Is your clan's young mistress getting engaged in a few days? When the two of them saw Longchen walk out from behind them, they became even more impatient. One of them even punched at Longchen with a black glow on his fist. Jianshi was about to attack with his broken sword. Unfortunately, Longchen was faster. Bang! The young gatekeeper who attacked was sent flying like a cannonball. He crashed into the mountain gate. Half of the flesh on his body had been crushed. You are a human sovereign realm expert? The other person cried out. The two of them did not expect this guy who was younger than them to be a human sovereign realm expert. He was a human sovereign realm expert. The young man whose body was almost crushed was slowly recovering. He had condensed his Dao body. Longchen said coldly, I won't ask you a second time, is your young mistress getting engaged in a few days? The man whose body had just been crushed was furious. He roared, so what if you are a human sovereign realm expert? This is the Jiuyin ancient people. How dare you attack me? Boom! Just as he finished speaking, streaks of water sword precepts condensed out of thin air and instantly blasted this person into pieces. His spirit also turned into green smoke the moment it appeared. Can you answer my question now? Longchen stared at the remaining gatekeeper and asked calmly. This person's face was already as pale as a sheet of paper. With a plop, he knelt on the ground and hurriedly replied, Yes, our clan's eldest miss will also be engaged during this engagement ceremony. Longchen nodded slightly and walked slowly towards the mountain gate. Behind him, Marquis Feng Qing and the members of the Mountain Kuei clan were pale with fright. This is the Jiuyin ancient people. Longchen actually killed one of the gatekeepers. Let's hurry up and leave. This is no longer a place where we can stay. Feng Qing Ho hurriedly said. The Jiuyin ancient people were more powerful than the Xia clan. Now that they knew that the Jiuyin ancient people had formed an alliance with the Xia clan, they could not stay here any longer. However, Longchen shook his head slightly and said, Just follow me into the clan. Don't worry. After hearing Longchen's words, Jianshi did not have any doubts and followed closely behind. Marquis Feng Qing and the members of the Mountain Kuei clan hesitated for a moment before they gritted their teeth and walked into the Jiuyin ancient people. If they turned back and met the Xia clan again, they would still die. Only by following Longchen could they live for a few more days. The few of them had just entered the Jiuyin ancient people. The remaining gatekeeper hurriedly took out a voice transmission talisman and sent out an order, as expected. Longchen and the rest had not advanced more than 100 meters when people in black armor appeared one after another and surrounded them. Who dares to barge into the Jiuyin ancient people? Yo, aren't these the members of the Mountain Kuei clan? Why are there only so few of you left? Haha, among the armored soldiers, two middle-aged men who were leading the group could not stop laughing. The gatekeeper quickly caught up and shouted, This is the young man in the lead. He killed the gatekeeper who was with me. He even asked about the young mistress of our clan. I think he's up to no good. The members of the Mountain Kuei clan were livid. Upon hearing this, Longchen said calmly, Inform the young mistress of your clan that Longchen wishes to see her. Longchen? As soon as he finished speaking, the armored soldiers began to discuss among themselves. The two leaders' faces instantly darkened. One of them said coldly, "Your name is Long Chen. Are you from the barren land of the northern region? Are you the man that our young mistress has been talking about?" "A guy from the northern region. Are you delusional enough to think that you can marry into the Jiuyin ancient people? Dream on." Young Master Zhuyin Zhong was preparing to send people to the northern region to exterminate your clan after the engagement. Now, you've delivered yourself to us. The crowd's mocking voices rose and fell. Ever since the Jiuyin ancient people's engagement was approaching, Qin Xian had come and gone countless times. The clan leader and many elders had even quarreled countless times. And a name had spread throughout the Jiuyin ancient people. That name was Long Chen. Because of this, Zhuyin Zhong, the clan leader's adopted son, was so angry that he had been struck by lightning. He had lost all face in front of many Taoists. At this moment, Qin Xian had already been placed under house arrest. "Men, cripple this person's cultivation first. Chop off his legs and send him to young Master Yin Zhong," he shouted loudly. Black-clothed armored soldiers immediately rushed out. Every one of them had the strength of a human king. Rumble. Their swords were like rainbows. Before the Mountain Kuei clan could make a move, several human kings of the Jiuyin ancient people had died instantly. The surrounding people's expressions changed, and they stopped in their tracks. These two young men have the strength of a human king. It's not just a human king. Even a mid-stage human king is no match for them. These two have the strength of a Taoist. Quickly inform the Hall of Elders and the other Taoists. For a moment, no one dared to step forward. Wait. At this moment, someone shouted loudly. A Jiuyin ancient people elder strode over. Long Chen smiled playfully when he saw this person. He said indifferently, "I thought you wouldn't come." This ancient clan elder was the person who Long Chen had planted a restriction on the third level of the Divine Mountain, the ninth mountain. The moment this person saw Long Chen, his expression changed. Then, he shook his head and smiled wryly. He said in a low voice, "You shouldn't have come here." At the same time, the human kings of the Jiuyin ancient people looked at each other. The black-clothed armored soldier stepped forward and said, "Fourth elder, this person dares to barge into the Jiuyin ancient people. Please take him down." The old man waved his hand and smiled wryly. "This person is an old friend of mine. All of you, stand down." Then, he said coldly, "Young Master Yin Zhong is not in the clan, and neither are the first elder and second elder. Everything is decided by me. This matter is over." Chapter 349. The disaster of Moon's Seed. Under the guidance of the old man, Long Chen and the others went deep into the mountains of the Jiuyin ancient people. At this moment, the Jiuyin ancient people were discussing fervently. No one would have thought that a brat from the barren lands of the northern region that Qin Xian spoke of would actually come to the Jiuyin ancient people. Moreover, his strength was comparable to that of a Taoist. In the muddy waters of the Jiuyin ancient people, there were quite a few ripples. The Jiuyin ancient people traversed the 9 great mountain ranges, crisscrossing each other. The fourth elder led Long Chen and the others into the depths of the mountain range and said in a deep voice, "Didn't I tell you not to come to the Jiuyin ancient people? Why didn't you listen?" When Long Chen heard this, he replied, "I also said that I will definitely come to the Jiuyin ancient people." The man took a deep look at Long Chen and heaved a long sigh after a long while. Then, he turned his gaze to the Mountain Kuei clan behind Long Chen and bowed deeply. "My clan has been on good terms with the Mountain Kuei clan for generations, but everything changed 3 months ago. My clan has wronged you. The Jiuyin ancient people of today are no longer the Jiuyin ancient people of the past." The leader of the Mountain Kuei race was startled, as if he had thought of something. Marquis Feng Qing frowned and said coldly, 3 months ago, wasn't that the day the Bright Moon clan and a few 2-star ancient clan Taoists came to your clan? Could it be because of those Taoists?" The elder of the Jiuyin ancient people clenched his fists and said, 3 months ago, the heaven-defying son of the Haoyu clan came. His cultivation had reached the late stage of the human king realm, and his strength was enough to crush those at the early stage of the human sovereign realm, hiss. Both the Mountain Kuei clan and Marquis Feng Qing sucked in a breath of cold air. A Taoist was actually able to crush a Ronghuan. Was this the terror of a one-star ancient race Tao disciple? Seeing the reaction of the crowd, the elder took a deep breath and continued, not only that, but the few two-star ancient clan Taoists that the Haoyu clan Taoist brought along are all in the middle stage of the human king realm. They can also fight against human sovereigns. But if that's the case, then so be it. This person also heavily injured our clan leader and used the moon planting technique on a few of our Jiuyin ancient people, the old man explained. The more they listened, the uglier their expressions became. Longchen frowned. It turned out that the heaven-defying Daozi of the Haoyu clan had actually destroyed nearly half of the physical body of the patriarch of the Jiuyin ancient people. Furthermore, he had planted moon seeds in the bodies of several Taoists in the clan. According to this person's guess, it was highly likely that the ancient Shui clan had directly accepted the moon planting technique. The moon planting technique was to inscribe a seed of origin in the center of another person's dantian and soul. Once this seed was planted, one would be able to control that person. This kind of control was far different from the restriction that Longchen had left in the old man's body. Once the moon planting technique was planted, it was equivalent to becoming a clone of this person. Not only would it completely devour the person's cultivation, but it would also absorb the person's blood essence and vitality. This kind of technique was a secret technique unique to the Haoyu clan. Coupled with the Haoyu bloodline, it was almost impossible to break. In other words, the ancient Shui clan and the Jiuyin ancient people's Taoists were all backed by the shadow of the ancient Shui clan's Daozi. It could even be said that this person could take any nourishment he wanted. After knowing the power of this technique, Longchen slowly said, "This Daozi of the Haoyu clan only wants to use this moon planting technique to break through to the human sovereign realm when he steps into the 9th stage of the human sovereign realm. At that time, regardless of whether it's your clan or the Shui clan, the Daozi will all become nourishment. Anyone in his clan who is related to him will have no way to survive." Longchen frowned slightly, but he was not surprised. The old man's words reminded him of the name of this heaven-defying Daozi of the Haoyu clan, Han Luo. In his previous life, this person was ranked 10th among the 10 heaven-defying Daozi of the 4 major one-star clans. Even so, he was considered a leading figure of the younger generation in the Waste region. Moreover, it was because of this moon planting technique that this person had leaped from the human sovereign realm to the human sovereign realm in his previous life. From then on, he had become one of the top 3 Taoists in the Waste region. However, this person's ending was also tragic. This person used the moon planting technique without restraint and finally angered the 3-headed Golden Lion clan. The Golden Lion clan's Daozi chased after him for 100 days and was caught by 3,600 swords. At this thought, Longchen's eyes suddenly focused, and he said coldly, "Did he plant the moon planting technique on Qing Xian?" The old man nodded helplessly. Although Miss Qing Xian was planted with the moon planting technique, the power of her bloodline is extremely pure. It's a rare occurrence in 1,000 years. The moon planting technique probably won't be able to do anything to her in a short time. Longchen's murderous intent spread out as if it was real. Whether it was Marquis Feng Qing, the Mountain Kuei clan behind him, or even Jianshi San, they could not help but turn pale. Jianshi San had never seen Longchen's emotions change so drastically. In the past, Longchen was indifferent even when facing many experts. However, it was rare for his aura to be so unstable. However, in just a moment, Longchen's aura returned to normal. "Let's go. What we know today is enough." Longchen turned around and walked away from the Jiuyin ancient people. The Jiuyin ancient people's elder nodded slightly and said in a low voice, "These Taoists are not someone you can fight against. Leave and return to the North region. Perhaps in a few years, when you have the strength, you can come back for revenge." Longchen stopped in his tracks and said coldly, "When is Qing Xian's wedding?" 1 month later. "Do you still want to take Miss Qing Xian away? Do you know what you're going to face?" Although the elder answered, his brows were tightly knitted. Longchen turned around and left. He did not stop at all. When the Jiuyin ancient people saw Longchen leave, they were both frightened and sneered. This guy wants to fight with young Master Ainzhong from Miss Qingxian. What a joke! He's just a country bumpkin from the north region. Does he really think he can walk around the waste region just because he has some strength? Hurry up and get lost. Miss Qingxian's engagement is in 3 days. Remember to come and watch, haha. Longchen led the crowd away from the Jiuyin ancient people amidst the mocking laughter of the crowd. However, when they were 10,000 meters away from the foot of the mountain, they stopped. Marquis Fengqing frowned and said, "If the Haoyu clan is involved in this matter, we can't deal with them. We can't make them our enemy. The Haoyu clan is one of the 4 one-star ancient clans. Several of their Taoists are among the top 10 heaven-defying Taoists in the waste region." Marquis Fengqing's voice became lower and lower. How could Longchen not know what he meant? However, Longchen did not say a word. Even his expression did not change. After a long while, Longchen said, "Marquis Fengqing, bring the Mountain Kuei clan back to the north region. If things go well, I'll be back soon. And I'll bring you all to the waste region." Marquis Fengqing was stunned. The leader of the Mountain Kuei clan shook his head and laughed. "You want to lead the people of the north region to the waste region? Young man, although your combat strength is monstrous and your potential is limitless, as the Jiuyin ancient people said, you need time." Chapter 350. The art of finding it was a pity that Longchen had no intention of explaining and turned a deaf ear to their words. Before Marquis Fengqing left, he frowned and asked, "Do you really want to make the Bright Moon ancient clan your enemy?" Longchen nodded and said, "Once you return to the northern region, as long as you stay within the formation, even the mortal emperor can't do anything to you." After Longchen finished speaking, he left with Jian Shisan. Fengqing Ho and the Mountain Kuei tribe did not hesitate at all. They were afraid that the Shuan ancient clans would come after them again. "Young Master Feng, if your brother becomes an enemy of the Bright Moon ancient clan's Taoist, I'm afraid he won't live long." The Mountain Kuei clan member sighed. In his eyes, Longchen was a heaven-defying son of the Great Path in terms of talent and battle prowess. Unfortunately, he was too conceited and didn't know how to size up the situation. Fengqing Ho looked at the direction Longchen left. He knew that Longchen's words were not baseless. But could he really do it? On the other side, Jian Shisan asked Longchen, "Master, what should we do now? Now that the Runhuang of Jiuyin ancient people has not appeared, why don't we just kidnap the person you are looking for?" Longchen shook his head and said in a deep voice, "With our current strength, it's impossible to kidnap someone from a 3-star ancient clan. Besides, Qingxian also has the moon seed in her body. I have to find a way to get rid of it. Only then can I take her away after a month, and I won't be restricted." Jian Shisan nodded slightly. Longchen continued, "If you want to get rid of the moon seed, you need 3 things. Although Longchen had never come into contact with the moon seed technique, he had personally seen a sovereign realm expert cultivate the Dao Heart Seed Devil in the heaven domain. Both of them had the same effect. It was just that the items they needed were difficult to find in the ancient desolate lands. Moonlight dew, heart-rending grass, soul-breaking incense. Longchen muttered to himself. Longchen's perception of the 3 divine beast battle souls in the ancient desolation grew stronger. It was obvious that the 3 of them had also sensed that he had arrived in the ancient desolation. However, he knew that no matter how strong the 3 of them were, he had to find a way to get rid of the moon seed. Otherwise, he would be under their control. Furthermore, he would never allow Qingxian to be held back by others all the time. Moonlight dew, heart-rending grass, soul-severing incense. Although these 3 items were expensive in the 10 Directions heaven domain, they weren't impossible to obtain. However, how was he supposed to find them in the ancient desolate land? Jian Shisan could also see Longchen's helplessness and frustration, but he just followed behind him. Their speed was neither fast nor slow. Several hours after leaving the Jiuyin ancient people, they passed by a city. This city was called Ninyang City. Jianshi San snorted coldly and said, "This city is really good at naming things." Under the Jiuyin ancient people, the city was named Yan. Longchen shook his head and explained, "This city isn't far from the Jiuyin ancient people, but it's located at the junction of various mountain ranges. This city should have been built by the people of the Ninein giant corpse tribe. The people in front, don't block the way." Just as the two of them were talking, a burly man on the Slayer list galloped over and shouted. As he spoke, he lashed the long whip in his hand at Jianshi San and Long Chen's backs. Bursts of dazzling spirit light flashed. This man was actually at the peak of the Dao integration stage. Even if this whip landed on a Dao integration stage cultivator, it would most likely be lacerated and severely injured. Seeing this scene, Jianshi San's entire face turned cold. He suddenly attacked with the broken sword in his hand and shouted, "Do you want to die?" He deflected the whip shadow behind Long Chen with his sword. Then, he waved his left hand in the air, and a sword ray swept across the sky. The steed the burly man was sitting on instantly turned into a pile of flesh and blood. Whoosh whoosh, outside the city gate, behind the few people. Many flatterers instantly screamed and shouted. They were so frightened that they didn't dare to step forward. Long Chen turned his head and glanced indifferently at the burly man who was sitting on the ground with Jianshi San's broken sword at his neck. "Your Excellency, you seem to be in a hurry. May I know what's the matter?" Long Chen asked the burly man. Hearing this, the burly man's entire body trembled. He felt cold sweat all over his body, and his spirit felt like it was about to collapse. As he shivered, the burly man didn't dare to look straight into Long Chen's eyes. He quickly put his hands on the ground and put his forehead on the ground. Then, he said in a trembling voice, "The Pill Assembly is being held in the city. I was anxious and wanted to take a look. I'm sorry for disturbing you, Your Excellency." Pill Assembly? Hearing this, Long Chen's eyes suddenly lit up. He seemed to have thought of something, and a faint smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. He seemed to be very happy. He waved his hand at Jianshi San and said, "Step aside. Let everyone proceed quickly. Don't delay the Pill Assembly." Jianshi San glared at the burly man. Looking at his clothes, he could tell that he was from the Jiuyin ancient people. He already had a murderous intent in his heart. However, after Long Chen's voice fell, he could only give up. The burly man rolled and crawled and disappeared into the city. Seeing that Long Chen and Jianshi San had stepped aside, the people outside the city hurriedly rushed into the city again. "Master, have you thought of how to get those 3 items?" Jianshi San asked. Long Chen shook his head and replied, "These 3 items are very difficult to obtain even in the entire ancient desolation land. If I rely on myself, it's impossible to complete them. However, if more people help me, things will be much simpler. After all, this is the waste region. As long as the major ancient clans help, the entire ancient desolation land will search for these items." Jianshi San nodded slightly. However, he was puzzled and said, "The major ancient clans of the waste region are all arrogant people. How would they be willing to help us search for these items?" "Ah, they will, they will." Long Chen suddenly laughed and strode into the city. As he walked, his appearance slowly changed. His tall and straight posture turned into a hunched elephant. His face also aged in an instant. Even his temperament was completely different from before. Jianshi San looked at Long Chen in a daze. He could not help but rub his eyes and said, "Master, what are you doing?" "Changing my appearance." Long Chen's voice was hoarse and old. After Long Chen finished speaking, he waved his hand and pointed at Jianshi San's body. Immediately after, Jianshi San's bones started to rumble and his skin and flesh started to vibrate. His appearance also started to change rapidly. Jianshi San was very puzzled. He was not surprised by such a method of disguise. Long Chen's holy techniques could be easily learned by beginners. This kind of small trick was not difficult for him. However, why did they change their appearance like this? "Let's go to the Elixir Assembly," Long Chen said. Jianshi San nodded. However, he was very puzzled. He did not know what Longchen wanted to do. Although Longchen was an emperor-level alchemist, emperor-level elixirs were not enough to tempt the people of various clans. How could he borrow the strength of various clans to search for those three materials? In the city, there were crisscrossing alleys. Finally, they all led to the central square. The elixir assembly was also being held at this moment. This kind of assembly was held in many cities of the Waste region every once in a while. The participants were from the Alchemist Guild and many independent alchemists. In fact, this assembly was a place for regional alchemists to display their skills. If they were chosen by various clans, they would be able to enter the clan and receive resources. Chapter 351. 9 Bows. In the entire ancient desolate land, there were countless king-stage alchemists. Emperor-stage alchemists were the mainstay. As for god-stage alchemists, they were as rare as phoenix feathers and unicorn horns. Moreover, they were all based in the Alchemist Guild. Saint-stage alchemists only existed in the 10 Directions celestial domain. There was not a single one in the entire ancient desolate land. Alchemists were a resource that all the ancient clans in the wasteland fought over. Every Emperor-stage alchemist was enough for a 2-star ancient clan to recruit. This was also why the Alchemist Guild could be considered a first-class force in the wasteland. The Alchemist Guild's Alchemist Guild could be found in all the ancient clans. Their relationships were complicated. Alchemists' combat power was generally weak. It was good enough for an Emperor-stage alchemist to have the cultivation of a human king. However, many alchemists had taken root in various clans. Usually, a 6th-grade Emperor-stage alchemist would wave his arm and many human kings would come from afar. A God-stage alchemist's words were enough to make all the ancient clans go crazy. However, in the entire wasteland, only the 4 1-star ancient clans could interact with a God-stage alchemist from the Alchemist Guild. When Longchen and Jianzhisan arrived, the square was already crowded. Pill cauldrons were everywhere. Flames rose in spirals above the square, and the air was slightly distorted. There was a pill cauldron every 10 meters above and below the square. There were another 10 meters in front, back, left, and right. Everything was in order. Many ancient clans walked through the square, sometimes looking and sometimes whispering to each other. Sword 13 had already changed into a new set of clothes, and his appearance was like a green-clothed attendant. Only his eyes were as sharp as swords. The stooped old man in front of him was Longchen. 13, find a place to place the cauldron, Longchen said. You too, place the cauldron here. I don't need this place anymore. A pale-faced man in his 30s waved his hand and called out. As he spoke, he waved his right hand and put away the pill cauldrons in front of him. Longchen and Jianzhisan nodded slightly and did not stand on ceremony. When this person saw that Longchen had aged, he shook his head slightly and asked dejectedly, May I know what level of alchemist senior is? I have returned to the various cities, but there has never been a single clan that has taken a liking to my alchemy skills. Cough, cough. This old man is old and can no longer refine pills. Longchen coughed a few times. He looked at the person and said, Young friend, it's just that your opportunity hasn't arrived yet. Why don't you try your luck today? This person was undoubtedly a rogue cultivator, which was why it was so difficult for him to find a place to stay. Such an alchemist would usually refine a limited variety of pills. After all, alchemists who cultivated on their own would have very few resources in alchemy rooms. The young man let out a long sigh and turned around to leave. Jianzhisan took a step forward and stopped him, saying, My master sees that you don't have bad intentions, so he wants you to listen from the side. Perhaps today will be your chance. The young man was stunned, and then he said, You're much older than me, so why tease me? The young man's face was livid, and he was already a little angry. Longchen's wrinkled face showed a slight smile, and he said lightly, Although I can't refine pills, the kindness of giving up my position today is worth a chance. You refine pills, and I'll give you a few pointers. Hearing this, the young man's livid face suddenly darkened. He swung his sleeves and said angrily, You're so old that your hands don't have the strength to move the cauldron. You also said that you can't refine pills, so how can you give me a chance? Since it's like the pill assembly in the city, how much difference can there be between our alchemy skills? I'm kind enough to give up my position, but you want to make fun of me? The young man turned around and was about to leave. When the people around heard this, they all stared at Long Chen and Jian San. Who is this old man? Why haven't I seen him before? He's old, but his tone is not small. I see that there's no spiritual power around him. I'm afraid that he has no cultivation at all. He occupies this place and doesn't set up the cauldron, yet he speaks arrogantly. Is he a swindler? An old man and a young man came to this pill assembly only relying on their mouths. The people around sneered. Long Chen deliberately hid his cultivation, so the people around completely regarded him as an ordinary old man. The young man was once again stopped by Jian San. Jian San said, "You can't leave without my master's permission." The young man was furious and said in a deep voice, "I'm Kong San, a 5th grade king stage alchemist. Today, I'd like to see what kind of chance you two can give me." Long Chen slowly stood up with his stooped body. He really looked like an old man with the demeanor of an immortal. After a long silence, he said, "When you refine pills, the pill energy is weak, and your technique is clumsy. You must be fumbling. Although you've reached the 5th grade king stage, your alchemy skills are extremely messy. I have a jade slip here, which contains detailed explanations of alchemy skills, the application of techniques, the order of alchemy." As Long Chen spoke, he casually branded a jade slip and threw it to Jian San. Jian San handed it to the young man. The young man held the jade slip in his hand and was suddenly stunned. His expression sank into the jade slip. After a while, his eyes widened and he bowed to Long Chen repeatedly. In the end, he directly bowed and said, "Today, I offended you." "I was reckless." Long Chen waved his hand and said, "According to the instructions in this jade slip, you can become a 7th grade king stage alchemist tomorrow, and the quality of your pills will rise to the upper middle level." The young man nodded repeatedly and left in a panic. The people around were very confused. A detailed explanation of pills and many techniques, even if the symptoms were correct, it shouldn't be so bad, right? That Kong San is also ignorant. Even if these things are somewhat useful, how can they help him become a 7th grade king stage alchemist? His attitude changed so much. Could it be because of this jade slip? I think these people can't be scammers, right? Who cares? They don't know how to refine pills and occupy the position of pill cauldron, but they want to rely on swindling to convince people. Ridiculous. Jian San saw that the people around him were booing, and many ancient clans were looking at them with disdain. He asked in a low voice, "Master, what do you mean by this?" Long Chen said indifferently, "When Kong San comes back, we will know." The pill cauldron rumbled, and the pills were out of the cauldron. A strange fragrance quickly spread in the square. Many ancient clans and alchemists were judging each other. The sun rose and set. Even in the middle of the night, the lights were bright, and the fire in the cauldron was like a tide. On the morning of the second day, Kong San arrived with large strides. He seemed to be in high spirits. When he arrived in front of Long Chen, he actually bowed 9 times in a row. Finally, he placed the cauldron down to refine the pills. The people around looked over when they saw this. Why did Kong San come back today? Did he really have a breakthrough? Why did he bow 9 times just now? This is the bow an alchemist should bow to a god stage alchemist. That's enough. Don't tell me that a god stage alchemist would lower himself to participate in the pill assembly with us. I think his mind has been bewitched, or he forgot to bow 9 times out of gratitude. How many god stage alchemists are there in the entire Waste region? They are all in the hands of the Alchemist Guild. Why would they come here? Chapter 352. Doubt the next day, at the pill assembly. Long Chen was still sitting in the middle of the field, but he didn't take out his alchemy cauldron. Instead, it was Kong San who attracted everyone's attention. Originally, he could only refine King Tier Grade 5 medicinal pills, but now, he could actually refine a king-tier grade 7 soul pill. Your Excellency Kong San, are you willing to join my Zhou clan as a guest? Brother Kong San, the Liu clan is willing to provide you with the materials needed for alchemy and treat you as a guest. Although there was only a difference of 2 grades between a 7th grade and 5th grade King Step medicinal pill, the significance was completely different. Once the King Tier grade 6 elixir was made, the difficulty of refining the elixir would increase by more than 1 level. It could be said that grade 6 was a watershed. Since Kong San had concocted a 7th grade king level elixir, there were naturally many ancient clans who were willing to invite him into their clan. Many rogue cultivators in the surroundings looked envious. However, at this moment, Kong San walked towards Long Chen with a look of reverence. Under everyone's watchful eyes, he bowed and said, I was reckless yesterday. Thank you for your guidance, Venerable Alchemy. The corners of Long Chen's mouth curled into a smile, but his face remained expressionless as he said, It's nothing. I came here today to seek some good karma. As the two of them were talking, everyone around them, be it the people from the various ancient clans or the alchemists, were stunned. A moment later, he cried out. Senior Alchemist? This? Could it be that Kong San was really an actor? How could this person be a venerated pill? Divine level alchemist, could this person really be a divine level alchemist? 2. We all recognize this Kong San. Now that he has been accepted as a guest elder by the Ice Crystal Beast Zhou clan, he has risen by 2 ranks in a single day. Many of the alchemists who had more contact with Kong San were discussing spiritedly. There was even someone who directly asked Kong San, this person only gave you a few words of advice, even if he has some strength, how can you prove that he is a divine-level alchemist? Kong San, don't tell me you don't know the meaning of the 2 words senior pill? This title can only be used on alchemists above the Emperor stage. As the crowd shouted, the members of the various ancient clans also looked at Kong San. If the old man in front of them was really a god-level alchemist, then their trip was really worth it. Kong San shook his head and laughed. He said to the crowd in a low voice, Since the alchemy venerate did not stop me, I will not allow him to be humiliated today. Just watch. The jade slip in his hand that Long Chen had imprinted yesterday had an imprint of the word venerable at the bottom right corner. The jade slip appeared for the first time. Thousands of people in the central plaza of Nanyang City sucked in a breath of cold air as they cried out in shock. How is this possible? Could this person really be a divine-level alchemist? Why would a god-level alchemist appear here? Are the 2 words alchemy venerables fake? To be able to raise Kong San's cultivation by 2 levels in a day, this person's Tao of alchemy is definitely not fake. The crowd had mixed opinions. Long Chen and Jian Shan both sat upright in the same place. No matter how noisy the crowd was, the 2 of them did not move. Not long after, a middle-aged man strode over. He sneered and said, The word venerable is indeed on the jade slip, but whether or not it was left behind by a divine-level alchemist is unknown. I am Sunli, a 9th grade king-level alchemist. I am a guest of the Jiuyin ancient people. I came here today to seek the help of an alchemist of the same level. Today, I would like to seek your advice. As he spoke, he waved his hand, and the pill cauldron landed in front of Long Chen and Jian Shan. Jian Shan shouted coldly, The word venerable is something that your clan naturally has a human sovereign. One look at the divine pattern imprint and you will know. My master does not care to waste his breath on you. I think the 2 of you are just trying to swindle people. Why would a human sovereign come for you? Sunli laughed coldly. Pa. As he spoke, he casually clapped his hands twice. More than 10 black-armored human kings appeared in the surroundings. Each of them had the cultivation of a late-stage human king. In the blink of an eye, the soldiers of the Jiuyin ancient people surrounded Long Chen and Jian Shan. Long Chen laughed coldly, and said indifferently, Since you don't believe me, then refine a cauldron of pills. Who knows, this old man might be able to give you some pointers. Sunli said playfully, If you want to see, then I will give you a chance. As he spoke, a flame appeared under his pill cauldron. This person had actually comprehended the laws of earth fire. The pill cauldron was completely red, and smoke slowly rose. Sun Li's hands moved like lightning, and spiritual herbs were thrown into the pill cauldron in a flash. His speed was so fast that it was almost impossible to see with the naked eye. The surrounding people were stunned, and many of the human kings were stunned. Even their divine senses could not clearly capture such a speed. How could they watch him refine pills? In just a few dozen breaths, the flame under Sun Li's pill cauldron disappeared without a trace. A mocking smile appeared on his face, and he said, "Since you are a venerable alchemist, then tell me what kind of spiritual herbs I used. If you can't answer, then the two of you will follow me to the 9 Giant Corpse Tribe's dungeon today." As he spoke, many of the black-armored human kings' blades vaguely appeared. The surrounding people shook their heads slightly. Longchen did not seem to have the slightest bit of cultivation. Moreover, with such speed, even an Emperor stage alchemist would not be able to guess, so how could he tell? Kong San shouted coldly, "Sun Li, this venerable alchemist is old and can't refine pills at all. His cultivation is also no longer there. Although there are many inconveniences, it is enough to give us a few pointers." Why do you have to make things difficult for the old man? Because Kong San's alchemy cultivation had risen by 2 grades, he firmly believed that Longchen was a venerable alchemist. However, at this moment, Longchen waved his hand slightly, and said, "It's fine, but do you really want me to tell you all the spiritual herbs you used?" Sun Li said in a low voice, still pretending to be mysterious in the face of danger. "Say it." The surrounding people crowded over, wanting to see what Longchen would say. "Your Excellency used a total of 43 breaths to refine this pill. In total, you used 172 spiritual herbs," Longchen said indifferently. Sun Li frowned slightly and snorted coldly, "I asked what kind of spiritual herbs you used." 172 spiritual herbs, you said all of them." The surrounding alchemists were stunned and looked deeply at Longchen. In 43 breaths, 172 spiritual herbs were used. The speed was so fast that it did not stop. It was already very rare to be able to guess the number. These spiritual herbs looked almost the same, so how could they guess what kind of spiritual herbs they were? This kind of question was already somewhat difficult. However, Longchen continued, "Realgar grass, green shade fragrance, blood-exhausted stone." As Longchen's voice slowly fell, the names of the spiritual herbs were listed one by one. The surrounding people were shocked and looked at Sun Li one after another. Sun Li's face became gloomier and gloomier, and finally completely darkened. Longchen's 172 spiritual herbs were not wrong at all. Man, this person is making wild guesses. He got all the spiritual herbs wrong. However, Sun Li said sternly, "He's just a person who deceives people. Chop off his legs and bring him back to the clan." The surrounding alchemists and ancient clans all saw Sun Li's killing intent. Seeing that many human kings were about to attack Longchen and Jianshi San again, Longchen continued, 172 spiritual herbs. With so many spiritual herbs, only 3 kinds of medicinal pills can be refined in a short time, and according to these spiritual herbs, I know why you're planting medicinal pills in your cauldron. However, you can refine a grade 9 returning pill as an 8th grade king rank alchemist. Chapter 353. An old illness. The moment Longchen spoke, everyone's expressions changed as they cried out in surprise. Sun Li was only an 8th grade king stage alchemist, yet he could refine a 9th grade pill in such a short time. Moreover, he had used 173 spirit herbs. If what Longchen said was true, then Sun Li could be called a genius. Sun Li's expression suddenly changed as he said coldly, "Don't listen to this person's nonsense. Tell me," and pull out his tongue. Kong San shouted, "If you want to know if what the old man said is true, just open the cauldron. You're a guest of the Jiuyin ancient people. It's said that your pill was specially refined for a certain Taoist. If there's a problem with the pill," the black-armored human king frowned slightly. He was the human king of the Jiuyin ancient people, and his master was the Taoist mentioned by Kong San. If what Longchen said was true, then this matter would be serious. "Open the cauldron." The middle-aged man in black armor said coldly, "If it's not a ninth-grade returning pill, then the two of you should prepare to bleed here today." Bang! As soon as he finished speaking, a beam of spirit light shot out from his saber and blasted the cauldron open. He reached out and grasped the pill in his hand. It really is a returning pill. A ninth-grade king stage returning pill. Could this old man be telling the truth? This pill can kill? Sun Li claims to be a ninth-grade alchemist. What's wrong with refining a ninth-grade pill? Why did this old man say he's an eighth-grade pill? The surrounding people were confused, but the black-armored middle-aged man frowned. The pill in the cauldron was indeed a returning pill, just as Long Chen said. From this, it could be seen that Long Chen was right from the beginning, be it the number of spirit herbs or the name of the spirit herbs. This pill had always been given to the Jiuyin ancient people's third Taoist. Sun Li's face was livid as he shouted, "I'm a ninth-grade king stage alchemist. What's wrong with refining a ninth-grade returning pill? Moreover, I've been with the Jiuyin ancient people for 2 years. Everyone knows that the third Tao child of the Jiuyin ancient people refined pills. I think you've been prepared for this for a long time. You're trying to slander me." The black-armored middle-aged man frowned slightly, as if he felt that Sun Li's words made some sense. However, Long Chen continued, "It's easy to know if you're a ninth-grade king stage alchemist. If I'm not wrong, other than this returning pill, you can't refine any other low-grade king stage alchemist." Thud thud. Sun Li's feet abruptly shuddered as he subconsciously took a few steps back, his face turning pale with shock. The black-armored middle-aged man immediately shouted coldly, "Is this person speaking the truth? Alchemist Sun Li, you better prove your innocence. Otherwise, today." Sun Li went silent for a short while, and then his face was ghastly pale as he roared, "I really only know how to refine a single type of medicinal pill. But even then, so what? How is it?" Long Chen sneered. "Refining a ninth-grade king stage returning pill in a few dozen breaths' time. If you were a ninth-grade king stage alchemist, it would be fine, but you're only an eighth-grade king stage alchemist. My guess is right. Your pill cauldron is refined with black bloodstone." Thud. As soon as Long Chen finished speaking, Sun Li, who was still insufferably arrogant just a moment ago, fell to the ground, paralyzed. The black-armored soldier held a long saber in his hand, and with a swift movement, he bound Sun Li. The surrounding ancient clans and alchemists all looked at each other in dismay. Now that the whole story was clear, what exactly was this black bloodstone, and why would it cause the person who consumed the returning pill to lose his life? Everyone was discussing animatedly, but Long Chen had no intention of explaining. Not long after, an old man walked out from the crowd. This person walked to Long Chen, bowed slightly, and said indifferently, "Refining a pill cauldron with black bloodstone is forbidden by my alchemist guild. This person deserves death for his crime." There was a pill cauldron badge hanging on this person's chest. He was actually an emperor-level alchemist from the alchemist guild. Hearing this, the black-armored soldiers of the Jiuyin ancient people's faces turned gloomy. Sun Li even went limp on the ground. Whoosh! The middle-aged man in black armor raised his saber and chopped off Sun Li's head. Then, he took out a Dharma artifact to capture Sun Li's soul. The surrounding people were in an uproar. Sun Li was actually beheaded just like that. As a guest elder of the Jiuyin ancient people, this person had always been unscrupulous in Nanyang City's pill assembly. Now, he had actually died an unnatural death. On the other hand, everyone was staring at Long Chen. A king grade 8 alchemist refining a grade 9 emperor-level pill within a few breaths, he had actually seen through everything so easily. No matter if it was the number of pills, the name of the pills, or Sun Li's alchemy cultivation, he had even listed out the items used to refine the pill cauldron. Could this person really be a pill venerable? A divine-level alchemist? Even if he can't refine pills and open a cauldron, he's still a top-notch existence. This person was able to see through so many things in just a few breaths. His understanding of alchemy has probably reached a shocking level. Everyone's faces were filled with fervor. If the old man in front of them was really a divine-level alchemist, then they might really have ushered in a great opportunity. However, just as the crowd was eager to seek Long Chen's guidance, Long Chen's voice suddenly rang out. The divine-level alchemist from the Alchemist Guild pressed his hand down slightly and stared at Long Chen. I'm Ouyang Yun, a Grade 1 divine-level alchemist. The Black Bloodstone has been banned for a long time. Very few people have heard of it, and it's extremely difficult to discover. However, even a Grade 3 divine-level alchemist or above can see that there's something fishy about it. Senior, being able to see through the Black Bloodstone is enough to prove that you were at least a Grade 3 divine-level alchemist in the past. However, if you assume that you're a divine-level alchemist just because of this, I'm afraid that's not right. This person's words were filled with doubt, but every word was very respectful. It was as if he treated Long Chen as a senior. Several people from the Alchemist Guild also nodded. Compared to many rogue cultivators and ancient clans, their horizons and knowledge of the many prohibitions of alchemy were very clear. Divine-level alchemists were only found in the Alchemist Guild in the entire Waste Realm. If this person was really a divine-level alchemist, even if he couldn't refine pills, it was enough to cause a sensation. Long Chen coughed lightly and said, I came here to seek an opportunity and find a person to inherit my mantle. Little friend, please tell me how you're going to prove it. Ouyang Yun was in awe. Seeing that Long Chen was so calm, he believed him a little. After a moment of silence, he said, Senior, since you can't refine pills anymore, the Alchemist Guild has an extremely strict examination of divine-level alchemists. The Alchemy Venerable's mark is naturally one of them. However, the intent of condensing pill patterns inside can only be detected by a Runhuang powerhouse. I'm not talented, but I was lucky enough to see a divine-level alchemist in the Alchemist Guild. I have an old illness that only a divine-level alchemist can see the solution to. Ouyang Yun's words were humble. The people around were also very convinced by the Alchemist Guild. They all looked at Long Chen. When Ouyang Yun mentioned this old illness, he couldn't help but sigh. Chapter 354. Come back tomorrow. An old illness that only a god-level alchemist could see. Long Chen frowned slightly and said in a deep voice, I am an alchemist, not a doctor. How can I see the illness? Ouyang Yun shook his head and did not answer. He only tore a piece of clothing on his chest, revealing his broad chest. Hiss. The moment his chest was exposed, the surrounding people all sucked in a breath of cold air and subconsciously retreated dozens of steps. Even the black-armored human king of the Nine ancient race turned pale with fright and stood far away. Jian Shirsan's pupils shrank and he held the broken sword in his hand horizontally, staring at this person. Seeing the reactions of the surrounding people, Ouyang Yun laughed bitterly, his eyes filled with bitterness. On his chest, there were many thumb-sized baby faces that looked like they were about to burst out of his body. His skin was constantly cracking, as if countless skulls were contained within. On top of that, there were countless black gas rippling all over his chest and extending downwards. If this person was not a human king, his body would not die and his vitality would be extremely strong. He would probably be completely devoured in the blink of an eye. Long Chen waved his hand slightly, indicating for Jian Shirsan to leave. Ouyang Yun smiled bitterly, I have this old illness since I was 40 years old. Apart from the Alchemist Guild's god-level alchemist who can see the symptoms and find a solution, no one else can see it. The surrounding people saw that he changed his clothes and covered his chest and breathed a sigh of relief, but they still did not dare to approach him. Such a terrible old illness, not to mention seeing the cause, just looking at it made one's scalp tingle. Can you say something? Ouyang Yun asked in a deep voice. Long Chen sighed and said indifferently, this illness, only a god-level alchemist can see the peculiarity, but it is not impossible to solve. It is not impossible to solve? Long Chen's words made Ouyang Yun tremble all over. He subconsciously took a few steps forward and said involuntarily, Sir. Sir, are you saying that this illness can be solved? I don't just know the solution. Ouyang Yun already knew the solution to this illness, but he was unable to solve it. And Long Chen's words seemed to be able to solve this illness. Long Chen nodded slightly and said, "Tomorrow at noon, I will come back here again. This illness can be cured then." As soon as he finished speaking, Long Chen and Jian Shan stood up and walked out. Ouyang Yun was startled. Seeing Long Chen and Jian Shan turn around, he smiled bitterly. The few people from the Alchemist Guild behind him immediately shouted coldly, "Men, take the two of them down for me." Just a few words and they actually want to escape unscathed. "Wait." Ouyang Yun waved his hand with a bitter smile. "Let them go. This old man can see through the black bloodstone, so he can be considered our senior. Even so, he has his own difficulties. Why make things difficult for them?" Moreover, he exposed Sun Li's violation of the rules this time, so he can be considered to have performed a meritorious service. The surrounding people looked at the backs of Jian Shan and Long Chen and sighed endlessly. If it wasn't for Ouyang Yun's arrival today, perhaps everyone would have really thought that they were God-ranked alchemists. He said he would come back tomorrow, but I'm afraid he won't come back tomorrow. The God-ranked alchemists can see the solution, but I'm afraid he can't. Forget it, this person isn't evil. I think he just had an ulterior motive. Let him go. There are only a few God-ranked alchemists in the whole waste domain. Why would they appear here? Let's disperse. Continue the elixir assembly. The crowd dispersed. Ouyang Yun looked in the direction Long Chen and Jian Shan had left and returned to his original place in disappointment. He returned to the northern part of the waste domain this time only to enter a 3-star ancient clan and enjoy his old age. The elixir assembly was in full swing. Long Chen and Jian Shan had already left. When they reached the mountain stream, Jian Shan couldn't help but ask Long Chen, "Master, did you really see the illness and know the solution?" In his eyes, Long Chen had always been an emperor-ranked alchemist. However, he was a little uncertain now. Long Chen nodded and said, "Although I saw this person's illness, if I were to say it out loud, I'm afraid it would be different from what Ouyang Yun heard from a God-ranked alchemist. At that time, I'm afraid it would be hard to explain. This person is polite and isn't an evil person. I'll just cure him tomorrow." "I'll just cure him." When Jian Shan heard this, his expression was extremely strange. He couldn't help but ask, "I don't dare to doubt Master's words, but Master, is he really a God-ranked alchemist?" A God-ranked alchemist was extremely noble. He couldn't believe that Long Chen, with his cultivation, was also a God-ranked alchemist. Long Chen saw that although Jian Shan said that he did not dare to not believe it, his face was filled with disbelief. He immediately slapped Jian Shan several meters away. "God-ranked alchemist. When I become a saint-ranked alchemist, won't you be scared to death?" Long Chen scolded jokingly. Jian Shan was dumbfounded. When Long Chen saw Jian Shan's reaction, he continued to tease, "What, you still don't believe me? Why don't I teach you the art of alchemy? Let's not talk about God-ranked. With your aptitude, it's very easy to reach Emperor-ranked within 5 years." Jian Shan quickly shook his head and said, "I believe you. 13 has no interest in alchemy." Long Chen fiercely rolled his eyes at Jian Shan. Apart from the broken sword in his hand, there was nothing else in this world that he was interested in. "Okay, you go and find a way to get everything in this jade slip. Tomorrow, I'll cure Ouyang Yun's old illness," Long Chen said in a deep voice. Jian Shan nodded and took the jade slip. He turned around and rushed into the depths of the mountain range. As long as he could cure Ouyang Yun, Long Chen would be able to live up to his title as a God-ranked alchemist. A God-ranked alchemist was enough to shake half of the wilderness. When the time came, as long as those 3 materials existed in the wilderness, Long Chen would be able to get them easily. Long Chen returned to the cave where he and Jian Shan had agreed to meet. He sat cross-legged and began to think about various alchemy matters. For the next period of time, he would have to claim to be a God-ranked alchemist. He must not have the slightest flaw. Time flew by quickly. It was not until late at night that Jian Shan returned. Long Chen also began to refine alchemy directly. San saw that Long Chen was about to start refining alchemy and immediately said, "Master, these things are all things that can kill people. Can they really be used to refine alchemy?" Long Chen smiled and said, "Refining alchemy is true, but the alchemy I'm going to refine is a poison pill." Seeing that San was still puzzled, Long Chen waved his hand and motioned for him to leave. The next day, seeing that it was almost noon, Long Chen brought San to Nanyang City once again. "It's those two people again. They actually came again. Could it be that they really found a way to save Ouyang Yun?" "Nonsense, I don't think they found a way to save Ouyang Yun. They're here to swindle people. How can there be so many god-ranked alchemists in this world? Everyone may not know, but Ouyang Yun left Nanyang City early this morning. Today, the Shuang clan became a guest elder." Chapter 355. The three decrements of alchemy. Long Chen and San came to Nanyang City again. Just as they arrived at the central plaza, they heard that Ouyang Yun had already become a guest of the Shuang clan. The people around them mocked them, and no one paid attention to them anymore. They all thought that they had purposely waited for Ouyang Yun to leave the pill assembly before returning. San frowned and said, "That Ouyang Yun actually left. What should we do?" Ouyang Yun obviously did not believe that Long Chen could cure his old illness. He only thought that Long Chen said that to get away. Seeing the gazes of the people around them, San was very displeased. Long Chen stood behind him, but his expression did not change. After a while, he smiled and said, "Since you and I are here, someone will naturally pass the news to him." The two of them sat in their seats and did not refine pills. Time passed by slowly. Although the people around them knew that Long Chen had some skills, they were very disdainful of him pretending to be a god-level alchemist. From late in the morning to late in the evening, no one spoke to the two of them. What's wrong with these two? Ouyang Yun gave them a way out. Could it be that they really think they are important? Pretending to be a god-level alchemist is simply an insult to us. If not, based on the strength of his eyes yesterday, the great clans would not have ignored him. They are not here to join the great clans. They are here to take in disciples. Find a disciple to cheat with? Ha! Seeing that the sun was about to set, the people who were participating in the pill assembly were about to leave. However, not long after everyone had walked out, they actually all turned back in unison. "Haha, Alchemist Ouyang Yun is back. This time, those two fellows will probably find an excuse to leave. Let's go and watch the show. I want to see how that old and young pair will put their faces. I gave him a way out yesterday, but he still doesn't know when to back down." Everyone sneered as they stared playfully at Long Chen and Ouyang Yun. Ouyang Yun walked over under the crowd's escort. Her face darkened slightly. When he arrived in front of Long Chen, he frowned and said, "Why have you come here? If it wasn't for someone informing me, wouldn't the various clans think that I'm an untrustworthy person? Senior, you should know when to advance and when to retreat. There's no need to make everyone look bad." Ouyang Yun was also a little unhappy. Originally, he didn't come here today to give Long Chen a way out. He didn't expect that the two of them would stay here for another day. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, everyone seemed to be waiting for Long Chen and his companion to leave with their tails between their legs. However, Long Chen coughed lightly and said, "You're not someone who goes back on his words." "Isn't this old man also? I've brought the solution. If you don't believe me, you can leave." When San saw Long Chen's appearance, the corners of his eyes couldn't help but twitch. It had to be said that Long Chen was really good at pretending to be an old man. If the two of them were familiar with each other, they probably wouldn't be able to tell. When Ouyang Yun heard this, his face suddenly darkened. He said in a low voice, "I've already given you enough face. Even if you let me leave now, do you think they'll treat you as a god-tier alchemist?" Ouyang Yun obviously thought that Long Chen were insatiable and wanted him to leave. "Alchemist Ouyang, don't give this person any more face. Just accept it and see. I want to know how this person will get out of this situation." Although there's no one presiding over the city's pill assembly, we can't tolerate such nonsense. If he can't cure your illness, we won't let him leave unscathed today. Alchemist Ouyang once said that even a god-tier alchemist can't cure your illness. If he can cure it, then there's really a ghost. Under the urging of the people around, Ouyang Yun saw that Long Chen's expression was indifferent. He frowned and said in a low voice, "Since you insist, then let's do it. I want to see how you're going to cure this illness." Long Chen slowly stood up and said, "Your illness is indeed caused by medicinal pills. It's true that only a god-tier alchemist can see the cure. If I'm not wrong, your luck when you were 40 years old was really bad." Ouyang Yun asked, "Why?" Since ancient times, when alchemy was at its peak, there was a saying about the pill doused 3 blights. Do you know about it? Long Chen continued to ask. Ouyang Yun shook his head, but his frown deepened. He had never heard a god-tier alchemist mention this when he went to the Alchemist Association headquarters. Long Chen seemed to have expected this. He ignored the disdainful and doubtful looks of the people around him and continued to speak. Alchemists fuse the spiritual objects of heaven and earth, refining the fortune into a cauldron and condensing the fortune into a pill. Therefore, they are envied by the heavens and have 3 blights. The first blight is the flesh. The second blight is the bones. The third blight is the soul. However, after ancient times, alchemy was weak, and the rules of alchemy no longer existed. The 3 blights have long been annihilated, and you just happen to have extremely bad luck to encounter the 3 blights of alchemy that have long disappeared. Long Chen's words were like the evening drum and morning bell. When he finished speaking, the people around him were absent-minded. Ouyang Yun subconsciously asked, "Senior, is this true?" Long Chen smiled but did not speak. He continued, "If I'm not wrong, you should have been refining pills when you got this illness. Moreover, you should have been close to breaking through. Because of the old illness in your chest, only your flesh and blood are like this. Your bones are not damaged at all. Moreover, your whole body is like being slowly cooked. Once you start refining pills, the symptoms will worsen." Ouyang Yun fell to his knees. Long Chen's words were exactly the same as what the god-tier alchemist said that day. "Senior, please save me." Ouyang Yun couldn't help but tremble. He knelt on the ground and kept kowtowing. The people around him were stunned speechless. Long Chen's lips curled into a smile. He said calmly, "If you believe me, then take this pill." Long Chen waved his hand, and a pill bottle landed in front of Ouyang Yun. The moment the pill bottle appeared, a foul stench suddenly spread. There were even traces of dark green in the air, like poisonous snakes. This medicinal pill and the medicinal fragrance left behind when everyone was refining medicinal pills during the day were like heaven and earth. The people around covered their mouths and noses and retreated. Even Ouyang Yun's expression changed drastically. This person is so ruthless. If this poisonous pill is taken, I'm afraid it will turn into a pool of blood in an instant. Alchemist Ouyang, don't listen to this person. This pill is extremely poisonous. Not to mention taking it, I'm afraid the flesh and blood will rot just by touching it. What 3 blights of alchemy? I saw that this person left yesterday to investigate Alchemist Ouyang. He's spouting nonsense today. Ouyang Yun's expression changed again and again after hearing what everyone said. Long Chen was still incomparably calm. He only stared at Ouyang Yun and said, "There are only 2 ways to cure your illness. The first is to die. The second is to never touch any pills in this life, let alone refined pills. If you believe me, this pill is your only chance." Chapter 356. Cure the disease. Ouyang Yun could not do either of the 2 solutions. He was able to survive in the North region because of his alchemy skills. Giving up on this path was equivalent to dying. Moreover, it could only treat the symptoms and not the root cause. The other solution was even more useless. Once he died, everything would disappear. Can I still live after taking this pill? Ouyang Yun smiled bitterly as he looked at the pill bottle on the ground. He had been thinking of ways to cure this disease in the past. His focus had always been on how to not touch pills, but it had never worked. But now, Longchen had told him that the first path was death. This was the path he should choose. You can live. Longchen's voice was faint. His seemingly casual words caused the flame in Ouyang Yun's heart to ignite. Ever since he got this disease, he looked fine, but in fact, he suffered unimaginable torture every day. If there was a chance to cure this disease, even if it was 1 in 100, he would still try. Ouyang Yun looked at the pill bottle in front of him. His eyes suddenly revealed a fierce look as he shouted, "I've been with pills my whole life. If I give up alchemy, I'd rather die. Today, I'll believe you. If I die today, it has nothing to do with the two of you." As soon as he finished speaking, Ouyang Yun picked up the pill bottle and took out a dark green pill surrounded by black gas. The pungent smell made the surrounding people's faces change again and again. "You can't, you'll definitely die if you take this pill. Alchemist Ouyang, don't be bewitched by this person. He's simply courting death. This is clearly a poisonous pill. How can it save people?" However, no matter how the crowd shouted, Ouyang Yun was indifferent. Although he did not believe Longchen's words about the 3 signs of decay, the solution was indeed almost the same as what a god-level alchemist said. If this pill was the only way to cure his disease, he was willing to give it a try. Gulp. Ouyang Yun ignored the crowd's advice and swallowed the pill. The surrounding people's faces changed. They did not expect Ouyang Yun to actually listen to Longchen. Under everyone's watchful eyes, Ouyang Yun spat out a mouthful of blood. The flesh on his body turned purple-black at a speed visible to the naked eye. A foul smell assaulted their nostrils. His flesh rotted and turned into blood clots that fell to the ground. The pitter-patter sounds made people's scalps go numb and their hair stand on end. In the short span of 2 breaths, Ouyang Yun's entire body turned into a pool of purplish-black blood. Ouyang Yun's divine soul left the body and looked at the body that had already turned into a pool of blood. He sighed and said, "I once tried to leave my soul, but even if I went to another body, the same thing would happen again." Longchen shook his head and pointed at the puddle of blood on the ground. His sternum was faintly visible. A human sovereign realm expert's physical body was almost immortal. With a piece of breastbone, as long as his divine soul returned to its original position, he could still reform his physical body. Wait for the blood, water, and black gas to disperse. Then, you can use your spirit to form a body with a piece of bone as the foundation, Longchen said calmly. In truth, the poison pill's effect was minuscule. The only thing that could save this person was the power of laws within it. This rule force was also something Longchen had done on purpose. The alchemy path's 3rd decay should not have appeared on Ouyang Yun's body. Hence, the effect was only 1/100th. As long as his body was completely dead, and when he was refining pills, he would be able to contain the powerful rule force in a unique pattern. Then, he would be able to protect his body and avoid the 1st decay. This method sounded simple, but in reality, even a god-level alchemist would not be able to do it in this vast wilderness. Only Longchen, who had obtained the alchemy path's inheritance, could do it. This was because everyone had to go through the alchemy path's 3rd decay in ancient times. He naturally knew about it clearly from the flame of inheritance. Therefore, he was able to perfectly integrate the power of the rule force into the pill. It even appeared at the right time to protect the last piece of bone that was recovering his physical body. As long as there was a slight mistake, not only would Ouyang Yun's physical body completely disappear and be unable to reform, but he would also go through the alchemy path's 3rd decay even if he changed his physical body. Ouyang Yun looked at that piece of bone. His divine soul dispersed, and his eyes were filled with gratitude. He bowed deeply to Longchen. He knew that regardless of whether he succeeded or not, he would not be able to repay Longchen's kindness. The surrounding people looked at Ouyang Yun without saying a word. At this moment, they only wanted to see if Ouyang Yun's illness could really be cured. If it was true, then Longchen would undoubtedly be a god-level alchemist. Time flew. Until the next morning. No one left the square. Instead, the group of black-armored soldiers from the Join ancient people came again. However, this time, the leader was a young man in a black robe with white edges. The young man was only around 30 years old. He stood on the spot, but there was an invisible aura around him that made the surrounding people not dare to approach. He frowned and said gloomily, "Yesterday, this person discovered that Sun Li used the black bloodstone in his pill cauldron and said that my life was in danger." Zhu Kang's third young master, it's this person. Moreover, this person seems to be calling himself a pill venerable. This time, Ouyang seems to be doubting whether he's really a god-level alchemist. Zhu Kang. When the surrounding people heard the young man's name, they all looked respectful. The Join ancient people were considered the best among the many three-star ancient clans in the area. This Zhu Kang was the third Taoist in their clan. Zhu Kang nodded and walked forward to stare at Long Chen and Ouyang Yun. He said, "Yesterday, you said that I don't have long to live. Then follow me to the Join ancient people." Zhu Kang's words were not polite, and there was even a hint of coercion. As he spoke, he even ordered the people behind him to forcefully take Long Chen away. In his opinion, it was impossible for Long Chen to be a god-level alchemist. He could easily control such an old man. Crack, crack, crack. Before Long Chen could reply, the purplish-black blood on the ground had completely dissipated, leaving behind only a piece of white bone. Ouyang Yun's soul immediately fell. With his chest as the center, his flesh and blood slowly regenerated. After dozens of breaths, Ouyang Yun's physical body was reconstructed, and there were no abnormalities on his chest. It's true, he really did it. Ouyang Yun once said that even the Alchemist Guild headquarters could not cure this illness, but he actually did it. A god-level alchemist, this person is really a pill venerable. I never thought that I would be lucky enough to meet a pill venerable in this life when I couldn't enter the Alchemist Guild headquarters. The people around them cried out in surprise. Everyone looked at Long Chen with respect that they had never seen before. The alchemists bowed in unison, kowtowing 9 times in a row. The scene was spectacular. The Join ancient people's third Taoist, Zhu Kang's expression changed. Cold sweat dripped down his body, and he knelt on the ground with a plop. He quickly said, "I offended you just now. Please don't blame me, pill venerable, and save my life." Ouyang Yun shook his head when he saw this scene. Offending a god-level alchemist was definitely not a good thing. Even though Long Chen could not refine pills, who knew how many people had been indebted to him when he was young? Killing a 3-star ancient clan's Taoist was easier than killing an ant. Chapter 357. Nining tribe. Again, the people performing the 9 bows looked at the Nining giant corpse tribe's Tao disciple who was kneeling on the ground. This person had just planned to take Long Chen away, but now he was kneeling on the ground. On the other side, Long Chen acted as if he didn't see him at all. He turned to Ouyang Yun and said, "You and I are fated. The 3 blights of alchemy have been shackled for so long. Although it is a disaster, it is also good fortune. All things in the world depend on each other, and karma is a cycle. Now that you have entered seclusion to refine pills, you can try refining emperor-grade pills. You should have a 70% chance of becoming an emperor-grade alchemist. A 70% chance of becoming an emperor-grade alchemist." Everyone's faces flushed red. Yesterday, Long Chen's jade slip allowed Kong San to rise by 2 grades. Today, he even solved Ouyang Yun's strange illness and became an emperor-grade alchemist. Ouyang Yun seemed to be in a good mood when he heard this and said, "If you want to become an emperor-grade alchemist with this method, why don't you ask the venerable pill?" The people around waved their hands and felt their scalps go numb when they thought of the scene on Ouyang Yun's chest. Thinking about it, it was reasonable for him to become an emperor-grade alchemist. As Ouyang Yun spoke, he waved his hand and a blue iron talisman appeared. The sword patterns carved on it seemed to be very ancient. I was lucky enough to find this in the center of the desolate region when I was in the Divine Corpse realm. It contains an extremely strange sword. The venerable pill definitely doesn't care about something as mundane as a sword move, but your follower is a sword cultivator, so I'll give this to him. Ouyang Yun was clever and knew that Long Chen definitely didn't need anything from him, so he directly gave this item to Jianshi San. Jianshi San didn't reach out his hand and looked at Long Chen instead. Seeing Long Chen nod slightly, he accepted the item. "All right, quickly go back and enter seclusion," Long Chen waved his hand and said. Ouyang Yun bowed again before turning around and leaving, obviously looking forward to it. However, at this moment, Nining Giant Corpse Tribe's Zhu Kang's face was ashen because he was still kneeling on the ground. Long Chen's divine sense flew out and covered the person's entire body. After a moment of silence, he spoke indifferently to this person. "You've already consumed the medicinal pills refined by Sunli for 2 years. You've already taken half a step into the gates of hell, so you might not be unaware." Zhu Kang's body trembled uncontrollably as he hurriedly said, "Pill Venerate, save me, Pill Venerate, save me. A year ago, I discovered that all my blood had turned black. Now that I think about it, I know that a disaster is imminent." Zhu Kang felt bitter in his heart. This was not because he was careless. There were many disciples of the Nining Giant Corpse Tribe whose bloodline had mutated, and quite a few of them had turned black. How could he have known that it was caused by the consumption of the Return to Yin pill? Long Chen looked at Zhu Kang, who was still kneeling on the ground. A playful smile flashed across the corners of his mouth as he spoke indifferently. "I've come here to find a disciple. Your clan's younger generation seems to be holding an engagement banquet today. This old man wants to take a look. Is that okay?" Zhu Kang nodded repeatedly. At this moment, his life was in Long Chen's hands. How could he refuse? Moreover, this was a god-level alchemist. At this moment, Long Chen did not seem to have any cultivation. However, even if he could not refine pills, a god-level alchemist's knowledge and understanding of alchemy was definitely enough for a 3-star ancient clan to rope him in. Seeing that Zhu Kang and Long Chen were about to leave, everyone had a look of disappointment. 2 of them even mustered up their courage and called out, "Pill Venerate, there's still some time before the Jiuyin ancient people's engagement banquet. Can you give us some pointers?" Long Chen's footsteps paused slightly. Seeing that the 2 of them were also from the alchemist guild who had followed Ouyang Yun, he nodded slightly. "Then," he said, "then the 2 of you can open your cauldrons and refine pills. It's best if you can refine the highest grade pills you can currently master." The 2 of them were overjoyed. They had not expected that Long Chen would actually stop. They quickly took out their cauldrons and started refining pills on the spot. Many of the alchemists in the surroundings had looks of envy and jealousy on their faces. However, many of them recalled how they had mocked Long Chen earlier and did not dare to say anything. Moreover, there was not much time left. The 2 of them were refining pills at the same time. The entire square had already surrounded Long Chen and the others in layers. After 2 hours, the 2 of them finished refining pills. They were all 5th grade king-level pills. Long Chen looked at the 2 of them and said, "The 2 of you have entered the human king stage and comprehended the laws of Earth. However, your method of refining pills and the properties of the pills are incompatible. The 2 of you should try your best to refine pills with gentler properties. Don't use earth fire as your main alchemy fire. Use wood fire. The Tao of the 5 elements is the foundation of refining pills. The higher your alchemy cultivation, the more you should pay attention to it. However, you are refining pills in the exact opposite way." Sigh. That was all he had to say. Long Chen turned around and walked out of the city. Zhu Kang led a group of black-armored soldiers and followed closely behind him. Seeing that there were still people who wanted to come forward and ask questions, his expression immediately became gloomy. The surrounding people immediately left resentfully. Zhu Kang respectfully led Long Chen and Jianshi San back to the Nining Giant Corpse Tribe. At this moment, the Nining Giant Corpse Tribe was extraordinarily lively. Divine light spilled over the mountains of the tribe like bridges. There were also rainbow-colored birds chirping incessantly. The engagement banquet was a grand occasion for the Jiuyin ancient people. Many ancient clans would come, but the power of their bloodlines had to be approved by the Jiuyin ancient people. Only then could their bloodlines be guaranteed. In fact, in order to ensure the purity of their bloodlines, many Join ancient people married within the same clan. Once the engagement was decided during the engagement banquet, the wedding would be held a month later. Long Chen and Jian Shan followed Zhu Kang along the mountain path and walked toward the highest mountain peak in the center. The mountain peak was crowded with people. There were handsome men and beautiful women everywhere. Most of them were at the late-stage Dao integration stage or early-stage human king stage. One could see the foundation of the Join ancient people just by looking at them. Long Chen's eyes were immediately attracted by a woman standing at the center of the mountain peak. This person was Qing Xian. Just as Long Chen's eyes were fixed on her, a fierce shout came from behind him. "Zhu Kang, what are you doing? Why did you bring an outsider into today's banquet? Old man, if you look at Qing Xian again, I will take your eyes." The person who spoke was fierce, but his tone was inexplicably arrogant. As soon as he finished speaking, he actually raised his sword and slashed toward Long Chen. Bang! Long Chen stood in place and didn't even turn his head. Jian Shan's broken sword had already moved forward to meet the attack. Jian Shan groaned and couldn't help but take a few steps back. Long Chen's right hand moved slightly and blocked Jian Shan's attack without leaving a trace. Is this the way the Ninein giant corpse tribe treats their guests? This old man has seen it today. Long Chen sneered. Zhu Kang's expression changed drastically, and he hurriedly stopped the person who attacked. "Yin Zhong, don't be rash. Do you know who the senior is?" Zhu Kang hurriedly said. Long Chen heard this and slowly turned his head. When he saw Zhu Yinzhong, he couldn't help but sneer in his heart. This person was still as arrogant as when they first met, but his cultivation was much higher than before. However, Long Chen could see clearly with his divine perception. The half-moon brand in his dantian had already taken root in his entire dantian and was even connected to his divine soul. Chapter 358. Have we met before? Long Chen used his sovereign's divine sense to seal his aura, so Zhu Yinzhong was unable to detect him. Zhu Yinzhong stared at Long Chen and said to Zhu Kang, "He is just an ordinary old man. Even if he has some status, I will dig out his eyes for staring at Qing Xian like this." Long Chen snorted and said, "Little friend, aren't you afraid of biting your tongue?" As soon as he finished speaking, Zhu Yinzhong was filled with killing intent. He held his long sword and was about to take Long Chen's head. Jian Shan had yet to attack when Zhu Kang took the initiative to block the attack. At the same time, he shouted, "He is a god-level alchemist." Ka! Zhu Kang's voice caused Zhu Yinzhong's attack to stop as he stared at Long Chen in shock. He said with a gloomy expression, "Are you joking? This person has no spiritual energy at all. How can he be a god-level alchemist?" Zhu Kang's voice was naturally heard by the surrounding people, and they all looked over. Everyone's faces were filled with suspicion. What did Zhu Kang say? This person is a god-level alchemist? How is that possible? Could he have been tricked by someone else? Almost all the god-level alchemists are in the Alchemist Guild. Why would he appear here? This person has no cultivation at all. Not to mention a god-level alchemist, it is already not bad for him to be able to heat up the cauldron. Zhu Kang saw everyone's reaction and hurriedly bowed to Long Chen to apologize. His expression was extremely ugly. He then turned around and told everyone what had happened at the Nanyang City Alchemy Gathering. The more the surrounding people heard, the more incredulous they felt. They looked at each other. Zhu Yinzhong was the first to speak. "How do you know that Alchemy Gathering's Ouyang Yin didn't collude with this person? How can he cure an illness that even a god-level alchemist can't?" Just as everyone was talking, Qing Xian slowly walked over and stood in front of everyone. Her eyes actually landed on Long Chen at the first possible moment. She didn't seem to care about the god-level alchemist at all. She only stared at Long Chen and asked doubtfully, "Old mister, have we met before?" "Have you and I ever met?" Qing Xuan's words caused the surrounding people to be stunned. At this moment, Long Chen had disguised himself so well that even Jian Shan might not be able to see through his disguise. However, Qin Xian seemed to have sensed something with just a glance. Long Chen's heart was filled with countless thoughts, but he couldn't say anything. He knew that he couldn't reunite with Qin Xian if he didn't deal with the threat of the moon seed first. Using his divine thoughts, he could clearly see that Qin Xian's face was haggard. Her eyes seemed to be empty, which made his heart ache. And within her dantian, the crescent moon had been planted deep within her soul. If it wasn't for Qin Xian's powerful bloodline that allowed him to resist for a short period of time, his life would have been taken away with just the thought from the person who cast the spell. Long Chen took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, 13, leave. This clan is full of unreasonable people. There's no need to stay any longer. After saying that, he no longer looked at Qin Xian and turned around to leave with Jian San. He was afraid that if he looked at Qin Xian again, she would find out and he wouldn't be able to stop himself from holding her in his arms. Seeing that Long Chen was about to leave, Zhu Yinzhong and Zhu Kang jumped out at the same time and blocked Long Chen's path. At the same time, an old man strode out from the crowd and stopped in front of the three of them. I am Jiuyin Ancient People's guest, Zimu, a second-grade Emperor Stage Alchemist. I can test this person for you two young masters. The old man was beaming with joy. He was obviously very proud of his title as a second-grade Emperor Stage Alchemist. Zhu Yinzhong saw that this person had just arrived and immediately sneered, since Alchemist Zimu has come out of seclusion, this matter is simple. Can you see if this person is an Emperor Stage Alchemist? Zimu's eyes stared at Long Chen as if there was a divine light shining in them. After a while, he said, I have never seen this person before. Even if he is a God Stage Alchemist, I'm afraid he is not from the Waste region. Moreover, this person has no cultivation at all. Even if he is a God Stage Alchemist, I'm afraid he only has outstanding knowledge. The surrounding people nodded. Although a God Stage Alchemist had a high status, and even if he couldn't refine pills, his knowledge and prestige were enough for the various clans to treat him well. However, it was precisely because of this that everyone was very suspicious of him. Zhu Yinzhong heard this and said, since you say that you are a God Stage Alchemist, please prove it to me. Everyone's gaze fell on Long Chen in an instant, wanting to see how he would explain. No one had seen the incident of Ouyang Yun and Nanyang City that Zhu Kang had mentioned with their own eyes, so they didn't believe him at all. However, just as everyone thought that Long Chen was going to explain, they felt an invisible energy shoot up into the sky between heaven and earth. A wave of pressure that came from the soul spread out in all directions, boom. Whether it was Zhu Yinzhong, the Emperor Stage Alchemist, or the many young disciples of the Jiuyin Ancient People, they all felt their souls tremble, and their hearts palpitated inexplicably. This was a wave of trembling that came from the soul. The surrounding people turned pale with fright, and they retreated in shock. Although this pressure that came from the soul of the divine consciousness was not dangerous at all, it still made them extremely terrified. Then, he asked Long Chen in a loud voice, I am the Alchemy Venerable. Even if I have no cultivation, you can still insult me. If you continue to be disrespectful, blood will flow like a river. As Long Chen's voice fell, his right hand suddenly moved, and a bloody word slowly appeared in the air. Bloody kill order. Seeing this word slowly appear, Zhu Yinzhong and Zhu Kang trembled all over. They hurriedly shouted, Senior, please calm down. Senior, please calm down. Wait. Wait. Just as the two of them finished speaking, one after another, late-stage human king elders flew out rapidly. Among them, the fourth elder, who was acquainted with Long Chen, was also among them. The 7 or 8 elders were all late-stage human kings. Their bodies were surrounded by the power of laws, and their combat strength was far from what their peers could compare to. When they saw that the bloody word under Long Chen's hand did not disperse, their faces changed in shock. The leader of the group hurriedly walked out with a solemn expression. He said, Senior, please calm down. Once this bloody kill order is released, there is no turning back. These 2 juniors have angered Senior. Senior, please calm down. Why aren't you kneeling and apologizing to Senior? The elders repeatedly shouted. Zhu Yinzhong and Zhu Kang knelt on the ground with a plop. Their faces were full of helplessness and bitter smiles. As Taoists of the Jiuyin ancient people, how could they not know how terrifying this bloody kill order was? In the Waste Domain, other than the 4 great one-star clans, the Alchemist Guild was the most powerful force. However, the Dark Star organization was the one that could not be provoked the most. Once this bloody kill order was released, it would not stop until one of them was dead. All the Dark Star organizations within a radius of 100,000 miles were mobilized, and their target was the Jiuyin ancient people. Once things developed to such a stage, even the Jiuyin ancient people would face an unprecedented disaster. The bloody kill order was extremely rare. For Longchen to have this order, if he was not a member of the Dark Star organization, it meant that he had an extremely high status, or he was inextricably linked to the Dark Star organization. Longchen stared at Zhu Yinzhong and Zhu Kang, who were kneeling on the ground, and said coldly, "Although I have lost my cultivation, I am still a god-level alchemist. You can still judge me as you wish. Today, I originally wanted to choose a successor disciple from your clan. Now, it seems that the Jiuyin ancient people are nothing more than this." Chapter 359. Stirring the storm. Zhu Kang watched as Longchen left. He knelt on the ground and glared at Zhu Jiuyin. He could not help but say, "If you hadn't acted rashly, our clan might have had another god-level alchemist." Although this person can no longer refine pills and has no cultivation, the divine consciousness that he just obtained is probably not something an ordinary human emperor can have. It's enough to prove that what he said is true. The elders nodded in agreement. The great elder, who was the leader of the group, said, "This old man shouldn't have gone far. Quickly investigate Ouyang Yun for me. I want to know if what he said is true or false. If this old man is really a god-level alchemist, his influence and knowledge are enough to attract the 3-star ancient clans." As everyone was discussing, Qing Xian was watching from afar. Her gaze was fixed on Longchen's back. No matter how hunched his back was or how old Longchen's appearance was, she still felt a sense of familiarity. After leaving the Jiuyin ancient people, Longchen's eyes suddenly sharpened. He clenched his fists tightly, and killing intent surged in his heart. This killing intent was not only directed at the Jiuyin ancient people, but also at the Bright Moon ancient clan's path chosen. This person had left the moon seed in Qing Xian's dantian. He had obviously touched Longchen's bottom line. "Master, is that woman the person you're looking for? She actually sensed you when you transformed into this, but he's getting engaged today. Are we really going to sit back and do nothing?" Jianshi San asked in a low voice. Longchen heaved a sigh of relief. The aura around him disappeared, and he regained his composure. He said, "Now is not the time. He's getting engaged today, but the wedding is a month later. In this month, I have to find a way to get rid of the moon seed." As Longchen spoke, he led Jianshi San straight toward Ninyang City. In Ninyang City, a piece of news spread quickly. The news that a god-level alchemist was staying in Ninyang City's Red Sun restaurant spread like wildfire. Many alchemists who were originally participating in the pill assembly in the city heard the news and came over. In less than 2 hours, the Red Sun restaurant, which was the largest restaurant in the entire Ninyang City, was already packed with people. The divine-level alchemist is back. The divine-level alchemist is in the Red Sun restaurant. Under his guidance, not only did Ouyang Yun's illness recede, but he also became an emperor stage alchemist after a few hours of seclusion. The 7th grade king-ranked Kong San was a loose cultivator. But because he gave up his position, he gained the favor of the venerated alchemist. A jade slip allowed him to rise by 2 grades. And the 2 apprentices of the Alchemist Guild that Venerable Alchemy gave guidance to before he left, both of them had a breakthrough. What are you waiting for? It's said that the first few alchemists who went to the Red Sun restaurant have already made breakthroughs. Countless shouts rose and fell, and the entire Ninyang City was in full swing. In a short while, the news of a god-level alchemist appearing in Ninyang City spread like wildfire. With the Jiuyin ancient people as the center, the ancient clans within a 13-star radius sent out their Taoists and elders to investigate. There was a long queue at the entrance of the Red Sun restaurant. Looking through the door, it was very spacious, and there were only 12 people inside. 10 of them stood respectfully on both sides, not even daring to straighten their backs. Long Chen and Jianzhi San were sitting upright in front of them. The 10 of you are not the talented apprentices I'm looking for, but the guidance I gave you today can be considered as an opportunity. Long Chen waved his hand, indicating for the 10 of them to leave. The 10 of them were unusually excited, and they bowed 9 times in a row. Then, the 10 of them bowed and left. After they left, the crowd naturally made a path for them. When they saw the 10 of them, they couldn't help but widen their eyes. The 10 of them were all king stage alchemists. 3 of them were not loose cultivators, but apprentices of the Alchemist Guild. After the 10 of them walked out, they were all excited. Seeing the doubts in the eyes of the people around them, 2 of them couldn't help but feel indignant. They couldn't help but shout, "The venerated alchemist's name is Tsang. You can all call him Tsang Supreme. His alchemy Tao is something we have never seen before." Today, after hearing his words, within 3 days, the quality of the pills can definitely be improved by 40%. Hiss. The words of the 2 caused the surrounding people to exclaim in surprise. Before the 10 of them could leave, they were drowned in the crowd in an instant. Everyone's eyes were red, and they were about to rush into the door. Crash. With a loud bang, the door of the Red Sun restaurant's hall was directly crushed by the crowd and fell inwards. Humph! Smoke and dust splashed, and Long Chen snorted softly. The originally chaotic crowd outside the door suddenly quieted down, and the few people at the front quickly knelt down, their faces full of fear. Long Chen didn't speak, but nodded slightly to Jianzhi San. Jianzhi San immediately understood, and a smile appeared on his face as he walked to the door and said, "Although my master can guide you, if so many of you come one by one, won't you be exhausted to death? Nothing can be accomplished without rules. If anyone wants to enter this door, from today onwards, there are 2 conditions, and you only need to meet one of them. First, hand in 100,000 top-grade spirit stones. Second, take out 10 different pills that you have personally refined, regardless of grade, and put them in front of the door. If my master thinks the pills are good, he will personally guide you. If he doesn't like them, they will be returned to you." Jianzhi San's words stunned everyone for a moment, and they immediately whispered to each other. 100,000 top-grade spirit stones, this was what an ordinary Tao disciple needed for a year. Ordinary people couldn't afford it at all. I, Lu Qing, am willing to use 100,000 top-grade spirit stones to ask for guidance from Master Tsang. Master Tsang, this is a good move. I think Master Tsang doesn't care about 100,000 top-grade spirit stones, but it can also block most of the people who want to fish in troubled waters. If you can't even afford 100,000 top-grade spirit stones, you can take out your own pills. If you can't afford both, those who want to fish in troubled waters should leave quickly. 100,000 top-grade spirit stones, such a huge amount, but no one felt that there was anything wrong with it. In their hearts, Long Chen naturally didn't care about the top-grade spirit stones. He just used it to set up a restriction. 5 or 6 alchemists were very rich. They directly took out 100,000 top-grade spirit stones and handed it to Jianzhi San, and then walked into the door. Jianzhi San slowly walked out and said lightly, "Master only sees 30 people a day, today there are still 4 people left." As Jianzhi San's voice fell, 4 old men in their 60s came up and put dozens of pills in front of the door. Then the 4 of them looked at each other, and then looked at Long Chen with anticipation. Seeing that the quota of 10 people was full, Long Chen's divine thoughts poured out and instantly fell on his junior sister's 2nd-grade spirit class pills. Then he immediately shook his head. These pills didn't contain the 3 spiritual herbs he needed. "Your pills are rich and natural, there's no big mistake, but you're not the person I'm looking for. Take the pills and leave." Long Chen said lightly, "You're tuning into the Mythic Realms YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.